And so I find it peculiar because...
Hello, amazing people. I wanted hello. I wanted to I'm actually on a Clubhouse right now. We're talking about toxic relationships. I wanted to bring y'all in on the conversation tonight. So that's why I went live. All this time I was sitting here and I thought I was live this whole time. But I know I was live, but I wasn't in the queue. It's okay. I want y'all to be able to hear this conversation. I wanted to stream it on my platforms. You can please chime in the comments, and we're gonna get started here in a minute, and y'all be able to hear everything.
Six figures, and all you have to, your only qualifier is that you want it. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying that men are the prize by any way,
Uncle Stu,
shape, or form, but I do wonder why a lot of these women who don't want the $41,000 man, who don't want the $60,000 man, they do want that six-figure earner. Plus, if you want them to be black, and it's only 1 in 5 men that make the top third of the income level, why aren't you being more competitive, considering there are more women than there are men? There's specifically more women than there are six-figure earning black men. I don't feel like six-figure earning black men are the prize, but I feel like there should be far more competition than what's currently out there at this present time.
No, I totally agree, man. I mean, let's talk about it. I totally agree. Hey, DM, I see you come in. Introduce yourself, and then we're going to turn it over to the guest for tonight. Hey, DM.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I really like where Michael was going, man. I hope I get to hear some more about that process. I agree with it. I think it's just, generally speaking, women haven't had to be necessarily competitive aggressively. However, some women are. I think what's also peculiar in that the black community number that you mentioned is, we know with the introduction of dating apps, that has had a significant impact on dating, where literally 80% of the people, or should I say 80% of the attention, goes to the top 20%. And I think once that got introduced through dating apps, now dating apps are also the reality that we live. And that number is, the majority of individuals are focused on the top 20%, and communicating to them, which leaves an additional 80% that may only be getting 20% of the attention. So when you look at those numbers, I think it's very realistic. My name is DM. I am a dating coach. I'm also a #1 best-selling author. I'm always happy to be in these spaces. I'll be in for a little bit, man, but I know that the conversation is going to be amazing tonight, so just happy that I can support. Make sure if you're listening, you hit that share button right now. We're at 10. I'm about to share, and I challenge all of the moderators, all of the speakers, and all of the listeners as well to go ahead and share. This is a great conversation, so let's all grow this room together. And I see that we're all melanated for the most part. So yeah, let's show some black excellence, man. Let's share this room and let's get it out there. So let's do our thing.
Yeah, I'd like to add something.
Hold on 1 second, Wayne. Thank you so much, DM, for sharing that. I appreciate you, brother, and I appreciate you being here. Hold on, Wayne. I'm coming to you. Hey, El Michelle, welcome.
Hello.
How you doing? Just for the people that don't know who you are, just share who you are and what you do.
Oh, thank you. Hey, of course, my name is El Michelle. I have a background in mass communications, television and radio broadcast production, the minor in psychology, interpersonal interactions, and I'm a voiceover master, professional endorsed saxophonist. Anything in the arts, pretty much I've done, coaching and all of the things. So I'm just glad to be here. Conversations like this, I'm very interested in, as psychology is one of my greatest interests in relationships and interpersonal interactions. So this is great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, El Michelle. Hey, Wayne. Before we jump into conversation, bro, you could just introduce yourself, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Shalakemia.
How you doing? My name is Wayne Payne. I just wanted to, add to the conversation.
Oh, okay. So before we do that, I'm gonna turn it over to Shalakemia. But like I said, just introduce yourself, man, and who you are and what you do, and then I'm gonna turn it over to her so we can get started. And then you could jump in.
All right. My name is Wayne Payne. You can read my bio, my profile, and follow me on Instagram, Twitter. You can see some content on there, and you can get a idea of what I'm about, what I do. But I like to lead with my intellect. I don't really get into titles and who I know and all this jazz. You know what I'm saying? But that's just me. Respectfully.
Awesome, Wayne. We appreciate you, brother. I've seen you in some stage. We got some great people that's in this room. And the people that's down below, like I said, feel free to raise your hand and come up and join the conversation at any time that you feel. There's no pressure. And at this time, I will pass the mic to Shalakemia to start off the conversation.
Hello, how's everybody tonight? My name is Shalakemia Moffitt, for those that may not know me and familiar with my content. I'm a motivational speaker. I've been doing it for about 5 years. I really focus on the Black family and the Black community. I mostly get pulled over to the relationship side and ask my opinion about things. I think this topic is very interesting and needs to be discussed. My question for you, Taylor, is you said y'all have had this conversation a few times, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you just kind of like bring me up to speed a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, I know that you've dealt with this conversation a lot. Do you mind doing like a quick overview on everything that you have heard so far?
Yeah. So, Taylor, you and I have had rooms taken over based off of this conversation. I've got some flack in my personal life over this conversation as it relates to, $41,000, $42,000. That's the average here in the United States. And so what's happening right now, especially on these clubhouse streets, I don't know about in real life, but I know in these clubhouse streets, it seems like a lot of good, decent men are being passed over because they're the average, right? And so I think where it gets misinterpreted, Taylor, is I think a lot of people think that we're saying a unicorn woman should settle for a man who makes $42,000. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that your average woman, if Black women are the most educated yet most underpaid people in the United States, and the average Black man makes $42,000, that means the average Black woman makes $36,000, which means dating or marrying a man that makes $42,000 is still hypergamous. And a lot of people don't want to hear that data. And because they don't want to hear that data, or they don't like the data, or they don't like how it applies to them, they feel like this is the average man coalition where we're advocating, hey, go find a man who makes $42,000. And I don't think that's what anyone's saying. I think what we are saying though is the data doesn't lie. So if you want a man that's making that 6-figure plus salary, what are you doing that's competitive to get that man who makes 6 figures? Because it's not enough anymore to say you can lay it on him. Everybody can lay it on him, especially on Clubhouse. It's not enough to say you can cook and clean and do this. Most of the men at that income level don't care about different things like that. To be honest with you, they pay people to do that for them. And so there's this competition where it's like, well, you're telling us to settle. And it's like, no. Nobody's telling you to settle. What we are saying is time to step your game up. And I think that's where it gets lost, is there are a lot of women involved in this conversation who, who feel like we spend too much time telling them to step their game up as opposed to telling the some average of black men to step their game up. It's like, yeah, but you want the six-figure man, so you should be the one to step your game up because that's the man you want. You don't want an average man. Start being competitive, and so that's where a lot of the discourse and toxicity comes from.
Okay, so I feel like this is my problem. When I first started making content, I addressed my first video that went viral was, sis, why won't you date a struggling man? And I broke down in that video basically that, why do us as women, basically want men to come to the table and have it all together financially, or have it all together in every area of their life when us as women don't have it all together. But I think the bigger question is here, why are we focused on what people have versus who people are? You will hear a big conversation on social media when it comes to Black women about how much a man makes. And it's why is it how much he makes and not who he is as a person, who he is in his mind, who he is in his heart? Why are we overlooking that? And then I'm gonna go a little bit deeper and tell people what will happen. A woman will get with a man that makes the money that she wants him to make. Then he'll turn around and say, oh, he was a narcissist. He used his money to control me. Well, that's what you got with him for. You didn't get with him for his mind and his heart. You didn't get with him to know who he was as a person. You got with his money. So I just really don't understand, this conversation when it comes to that. I've never had a man ask me how much money I make. Never. So I'm confused why us as Black women are asking men or requiring them to make this amount of money, or even just thinking of why are we leading with money in the first place? Yeah, we want to be, in a relationship and we want to be safe and we want to be secure. But I feel like safety and secure comes with multiple things when it comes to a man and not just money. But if anybody wants to jump in, I'm open.
So, Shakima, is it fair to say that, and let me just speak my heart, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong, especially in the Black community, with women dating hypergamously. I encourage it. I think what it comes down to, one of the largest issues, and I understand unicorns. So if you're a unicorn, don't read into this statement. I think that a lot of women no longer want to be in that build phase with a man. You know what I mean? You hear it all the time. Hey, nobody's trying to be a Barb the Builder. Nobody's trying to be XYZ. It's like, okay, that's respectable, but you talk to any successful man, and they always talk about the woman who was beside them, and it's like that man. You know what I mean? Like that, the man that you're overlooking, you could be the difference between $70,000 and $120,000. But you don't want you're going to feel like you build that man as opposed to you growing with that man at the same time. And so like I said, I don't necessarily think it's a problem. I think it's the mindset that comes along in overlooking the $42,000, $50,000, $60,000 man is, you could be the difference between that man making $60,000 and that man making $110,000. There's that meme that goes around. A CEO is walking with his wife, and they walk by a janitor, and he looks and says, "Look at that man. Look at that man. You could have been married to a janitor." And the wife looks at him and is like, "Look at that man. That janitor could have been a CEO had he been married to me." And a lot of women in the community, especially on this app, they don't want to live true to that. That, like, yeah, you make the man. Like, the woman really does make the man. Like, Like a man who made six figures on his own, is going to have a significantly different response to women than a man who got to six figures with his woman. A millionaire who did it independent of women is going to have a different mindset than the man who understands that you know what I mean? Like, you can't humble the man who made his wealth independent of you, but you can sort of keep a man in place who you've helped build his wealth, if that makes sense. And I think that's overlooked quite a bit.
Michael, can I respond to that? If I'm in a relationship with a man in success, is reached on the relationship, I'm not gonna look at it like I built him. I'm gonna look at it like we hustled together. That's the problem. It's the mindset. I'm never gonna tell people, oh, I built him. No, I'm gonna say we built this empire together. I put a statement out there a few months ago, and I said, if I become a millionaire first, me in the person that I'm in a relationship, we are both millionaires. It's not just me. Because at the end of the day, he poured into me emotionally. He supported me. You know what I mean? Probably was paying all the bills while I was building up the business. We're both millionaires together. I think it's really about mindset. And I do see a problem with a woman getting with a man for money. That's a big problem. Why aren't you getting with a man? Because of how he treats you, how he makes you feel. Because if I get with a man and we're both homeless, right? And we meet each other. And I feel like if he has a mindset, of wanting to build an empire, or he's ambitious and, things like that, whatever else, we can get a car together. We can get a house together. We can build a business together. We could sit at a table, and sort out goals and accomplish those goals together and come up with a plan. But that's just me.
No, I want to hear from these women folk. I want to know. Like, I'll be honest with you. Hey, I make about $95,000 a year, but I got a 480 credit score. Is anybody willing to partner with me to flip this 95 and help me get my stuff? Who's got a 780 who's willing to give me a shot?
So people want this $100,000 man, $100,000 man on income man. You want an above average man, which is very scarce in this country. The average person in this country don't even make $60,000 a year. So people with this false reality that they have in their head is just insane to me. But whatever.
I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, you was going to say something, Shalakemia?
No, I'm listening. I'm sorry now.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say that, for people who are in the room, or if you're just joining, Shalakemia is one of to me, she is the pioneer of these discussions and bringing these discussions to the virtual world and social media spaces, which we see is so popular today. And I agree with a lot of the things that she says. And I just wanted to share that in case anyone didn't know. I watched a lot of your content over the years, and I'm glad to see you grow and develop today. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
Thank you so much.
I do agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Shalika. I just think I agree with everything you said. Honestly, 100%. I just think people, not just women, but people, just have this false reality in their head. It's kind of hard to explain. I just think people are just in a fairy tale with them.
I heard somebody say something about a 480 credit score. They had the 95,000, but they had.
Oh, that was me.
Oh, okay.
I make about $95K a year, but I got a 480 credit score. Is somebody with like a 680 credit score willing to give me a shot?
And I'm gonna be real with you. A real woman would. You know why? Because a real woman is going to come into the situation and help you bring that credit up. But that's a real woman. A woman that's genuinely for you is going to come in and assist you, with that. Because when we get into relationships with people or you get into a marriage, that's what you do. I'm strong in some aspects, so I'm bringing the strengths that I bring, to the table. And then, whoever I'm with, they're strong in some aspects, so they're bringing that to the table. So everything that we both bring to the table complement each other.
Oh, and let me just preface this before you go forward, Charlotte Camia. I don't have a 480 credit score. I don't want nobody hit me for your credit services, credit repair services in my DMs. I'm good. So don't. Just hypothetically, just don't. I don't need your credit repair services. Thank you.
Hey, it's Chris Cabs. Can I speak quickly? You hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Chris, tell Michael about your credit repair company, bro.
Bitch, I'm rich. Listen, so what from my perspective, I think that it's kind of hard to find women with the mindset of building together, right? From my perspective, from my experience, maybe it's the industry that I'm in. Maybe it's my business, whatever I do. But from my experience, it's so easy to find these women who just want you for what you have.
I want to thank everybody that's in here right now. I love y'all so much, and I just thank y'all for supporting me. I just want to come and say that real quick. Y'all are valuable to me, and y'all are amazing to me. But I'm going to turn them back up real quick.
Quote-unquote women still exist, though. You know what I'm saying? Who really gonna love you for you and willing to build with you? I'm 33 years old, and I was once married at 25, and then I walked away after 2 days. Long story short, because I knew that was not for me. She wasn't for me. Why am I saying that? While we were together, every time when I had it, that's when she was most close to me, nice to me, and cook, and the whole thing. And when I didn't have it, I could feel the shift, right? So that's why I just knew that if I marry this one, we're not gonna last. So again, I was young, dumb, and stupid. I got married still, but then I decided to walk away after 2 days of marriage. Long story short. So unfortunately, I'm from Europe. I live in Ireland, and where I live, most of black women, especially, when you go on a date, first question they're gonna ask you, "What do you do for a living?" So that's kind of how we keep the conversation. That's kind of how we start talking. So now, based on what I do, that's how they're gonna treat you, and that's how they're gonna, find a way to either entertain the conversation or decide to walk away. Thank God, right? I've got a great career. I've got a way to get what I want, but it's also sad that it's hard for me personally to really tell if this girl or this lady want me for me, or she just want me because of what I do or for what I carry. It's a serious question, guys. Because my biggest fear is to be with someone who all this time she been just, she been performing, right, to make you believe that she really wants you for you, but low key all she wanted was just what you carry, should I say, what you have, right? So that's my biggest fear. You know what I'm saying? That's my question, really. These real women, like, are they still around? Like, are they even here? Like, is it even real? Because the only real woman that I know, it's my mom, who was married to my dad when my dad had nothing. and they have built everything. I'm talking about, I don't want to blow my dad's trumpet, but that man is good. He's comfortable. And I also remember when we didn't have nothing, and I saw how my dad has built everything with my mom. My dad got married at 24. Mom was 18, just turned 18. Do the Somebody muted me. I guess I'm done speaking.
Hey, you could continue, Chris. Somebody probably was just looking at your profile, pressed it by accident.
Yeah, it was by accident.
Cool. So that's my question, man, and that's my fear. These women, so-called real women, all this around, I'm not trying to be rude, man, but it's a thing. What is your business? What do you do for a living? Yada, yada, yada. Okay, cool, okay. Then we start talking based on my answers. So I don't know, man. So I need answers if there is any. Don't speak.
I would love to chime in on that. There are women out here that genuinely get with men for who they are. I feel like I do feel like, and I continue to say black men, because black men I feel have it the worst. And it's sad that black men have to go through things like that, because let's be real, when we were on, us as women, when we were on Section 8 and we were on housing, getting food stamps and getting cash assistance and getting those kind of services to get by, raising our kids and things like that, there were black men that came into the household, and helped us take care of our children that were not theirs. They didn't judge us because we got food stamps. They didn't judge us because we lived in the projects or we had Section 8. They didn't judge us like that. But in return, this is what we do to black women. We're judging them, by what they have. We're not getting to know, who they are. I just would not go on a date with someone, and I have not went on a date with someone and was like, oh, what do you do for a living? No, I got to know them, like who they were. How did you grow up? Things like that. It may be later, a little later down the line, they would just share. I think that's something someone should just share. This is what I do for a living. I have a degree in this. But kind of leading with that, I really, that makes me uncomfortable a little bit when someone asks me, what do I do for a living? So, I mean, for me, I'm just not asking a man, like, what does he do for a living? I want him to be, comfortable with me. If he wants to share, okay, this is what I do for a living. And not make him feel like, if I know what he does for a living, it's going to be based off me making a decision if I'm going to deal with him or not.
Hey, what's going on? I haven't shared in a minute. Are there other people who haven't shared at all?
No, go ahead, man.
I don't know. I don't know what's the safest way to have this conversation. Is it to think about our own experiences or making observations? But I think that I do think, and I'm not sure if I've understood or studied enough to really analyze and express what I think is the larger phenomenon that's at play here. But I do believe that there is one, and I think it's certainly well beyond just preferences and particular personalities. But I do think that there's a larger context to why this preference is being sort of forced on us, and then it's being highlighted as a dilemma inside of Black culture. Because I remember a time when that really wasn't a thing. And then I also remember a time where desirability was associated with factors that had hardly anything to do with income or even whether or not you had a job. So it's to even see this sort of shift And for me, it seems like I left one phase of my life and sort of went through I wouldn't say stagnant, but a desolate downturn in my life, which required me to prioritize survival. And then on the other side of that, I'm coming back into a culture where I'm recognizing that a lot of things that were not factors before have become points of antagonism for men like me. I guess I don't want to try to be too correct as to miss the points. I'll just say for black men. My experience before right now, let's say before Trump, was that my prospects of dating were just never affected by how would you say a social capital that I think a lot of people sort of point to right now. It just never occurred to me that these things were as big of a deal as I'm finding out now they really are.
So I don't really know what to do other than to question what have people been inoculated with in our culture in terms of is it this idea of scarcity? Is it a sense that the world is ending? Is it the epidemic of narcissism? Is it the questions that people have about black wealth? I mean, what is promoting this particular anxiety that's happening right now? Because I vehemently would argue that it has far less to do with people's personal preferences, but rather there's some instinct that's being, or some sense that's being activated in people that's causing them to have this survivalist approach to even something that should be more organic and guided by spirituality, and pleasure than these other capitalist or superficial policies that people are putting in place to make a decision about a mate.
Hey, that's a great question. Hey, anybody could chime in that's on the stage. And y'all that's in the audience that want to come and be a part of the conversation, just raise your hand and I'll pull you up.
So, hey Taylor, I'll go. I think you're right to a degree. A lot of us have traumas that keep us in a state of scarcity or in survival mode to where we have a preference over because of something that has happened to us and who we've been around. But that's all I'm going to say for now. So, Taylor, I don't know how to say her name, Shalishkuma. I think this is a great conversation to have because in full transparency, I am one of those that have said maybe a couple of years ago, you know what, I'm not helping another man build a thing because I was trying to build boyfriends, or instead of recognizing a friend or keeping it in dating mode or recognizing whatever it was, situationship, but it was like I was always helping them to get along, and then when they left, it was just like, okay, this didn't work. But I think we're building wrong. We're building with boyfriends, we're building with sneaky links, and we're women we're getting burned, or we have burnout. We have dating burnout, and I think we're just doing it wrong altogether. Dating is fine, but if you're looking to build and you see something in someone, then you should be marriage minded. And to Michael's point, I think it is a problem. We are not married. We're marriage minded, but we're not marriage minded for real. And when you are marriage minded, you recognize, I am the helpmate. So if this brother is making $9,000 or $20,000, I realize what I have and who he is and who I am. I can come in and it will be making $100,000 by the end of the year. So, what Chris' point, yes, these women do exist. It just takes a special man to bring that woman out to make her feel comfortable. And I yield my mic back over to Taylor.
Hey, thank you so much, Kels. Go ahead. I yield to you.
I just have a question. I just wanted to make sure that I was kind of following the conversation correctly. Are we saying that a woman who does have that standard that she doesn't desire to date a man who is at or around 41K, it's rooted in some type of trauma, or she doesn't have a true desire to be with that man? Like, are we making a financial standard synonymous with being a gold digger, basically?
I mean, I don't use the term gold digger. But this is how I'm going to answer that. I don't know how Clubhouse is. This is like my first time, on here, but I do know that some women have a prostitute mindset. And a prostitute mindset, is a woman that is, looking for a man with money. I'm not saying that's all women, but I'm saying that is some women. And I've also stated before that, some women are looking for help. They're not looking for love. I'm not sitting up here, I'm not telling women to not be secure in the relationship or secure in the marriage. But I do want us to have the mindset that like I have. And I know everybody's not going to have this mindset. I'm going to be with my man when he can buy me roses and when he can't. That has to be, the mindset. When some women get with a man, like I said, it's for help. And then when that man goes into a season where he can no longer help or, be financially stable in a relationship like, he was when they met, what does that woman do? Leave him? I have 2 sons. I would never, ever want someone... Go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, sorry, my signal, I got a red bar. What about the women that are... I think it's one thing to be in a relationship with a man who's... I think it's one thing to be in a relationship with a man who falls on hard times.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, what about the women who are saying, you know what, I'm marriage minded. I'm marriage minded. I don't want to concern myself with certain things. I know the lifestyle that I live is above $42,000 a year. I kind of want my partner to be where I'm at or more. Is that a problem? Because I don't necessarily know that I look at that as gold digging. I think I want to be where I am. Is that? And I don't think that's what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But Michael, I am saying, okay, so to the women that feel like, they have been in relationships and they feel like they have built men. You're never supposed to be with someone feel like you built them. If I'm in a relationship with someone, I'm going to feel like I poured into my mate. But again, I'm not going to run around, Michael, and just pour into any man either. We as women have to take responsibility for the partners we are choosing. You cannot choose a partner that you felt like you had to build and then complain about it or want someone to feel sorry about that. I've been in relationships I should have never been in. I've been in relationships that I stayed in. Michael, when I walked away from those relationships, I did not blame anybody. I didn't point the finger. I didn't do anything. I chose to be with that person. Now I have to move forward. I have to choose better. Nobody should be building anybody per se. We should be in a relationship with someone that is like-minded and pouring into each other.
This is Angela. Hello. How are you? Hey, everybody. Hey, Taylor.
Hey,
everybody. I'm
Hello.
just going to add my 2 cents. Now, I know you talk about the women that look for, certain type of men, but there's some men that look at women, too. Now, so you got a lot of men, sometimes they size women up to see what type of job they have and see what they got. So it's a twofold, because you find some men that can be kind of a gold digger too. Oh, baby, well, I didn't know he was a doctor. I didn't know. Oh, let me talk to you. Oh, no. Sometimes us women do that. But there's some men out there too that's sizing us women up just to see if they can help them. Not necessarily women helping women helping them. No, sometimes men looking for women to help them. I'm done speaking.
Miss Angela, my thing with that, and to just follow up on what I was earlier, I think there's a stark difference between being a gold digger and someone saying, I have a standard, everything else in my life when it comes to dating. I have a standard with looks. I have a standard with their relationship to God. I have a standard on how they look at parenting. I have a standard with their morals and their character. And I also have a standard for their finances, right? Versus someone.
Give me one moment, y'all. I know y'all can't hear. Someone tried to call me. Hold on. Hold on. I have to go back in. So we'll be able to hear.
That the majority of Black women are the former and not the latter. And I think that because some people don't hold those same morals and values that those women do, as saying like, yeah, I do look at the finances of my future partner, it gets conflated and confused with them, you know, essentially being a gold digger, no matter what word we put on it. I've dated men who told me that they preferred to date a woman who, you know, was on their same financial level. They preferred to date a woman who was an entrepreneur. I'm a corporate hottie. I'm very comfortable with where I am. I didn't think anything less of that man. I didn't think that he was a gold digger. In my mind, you have a standard for your future partner, and that's okay. The same way that I have a standard for my future partner, and as well as many other women, and that's okay. And it's also okay for us to not hold value to the same thing. What's not okay is to villainize someone else or to hyper critique someone else because their preference looks different than yours. Why don't we uplift and celebrate what it is that you find beautiful in men, what it is that you find beneficial to you, versus spending all of our time talking about things that we deem not important or unnecessary to us.
Hey, Leslie, I have a follow-up question. So how do you distinguish between, I guess, the one who is more marriage-minded and, I guess, looking for stability versus the other, I guess, quote-unquote, gold digger type, especially when you hear it on Clubhouse and the rhetoric, it seems to all be the same, especially the ad hominem attacks about Dusty this and don't dare take me here and all this other kind of, rhetoric. It all sounds the same. And so it's hard to differentiate between, I guess, the two archetypes that you just described.
I would say that just requires maturity and self-development on the man. The same way that we consistently tell women to vet better and date better and pick better, I would say the same thing with men. Vet better, pick better, and decide better. And sometimes it does take you, running into a wall, or it takes you actually sitting down and finding a dating coach, find a relationship coach, ask actual questions that is going to bring forth the answers that you're looking for. I absolutely ask what men do for a living, not because I'm looking for their financial standard or status or income, because I want to know, are you fulfilled with your life? Are you moving with your vision and your purpose? Where are you in fulfilling that vision and that purpose? Your career is going to play a big part in our marriage, because as much as we would like to fake the funk about it, we spend more time with work than we do with our own family. So I want to know, are you happy with that? I vet and I ask certain questions to understand the intentions of who it is that I'm dating. So I don't have the correct answer for it. I don't have the golden key for it. If you want me to be completely honest with you, no one has the golden key. No one has the 100% right way to get to marriage or to find your husband, because there are a million different people and a million different ways to get there. But the more that you are rooted in yourself and you know yourself, and the more you understand what you want, you can begin to develop the questions to eloquently find out if that person is equally yoked with your vision in life and if they have good intentions for you.
But can we agree that certain people or women could also do some research, some homework about you, some homework, they kind of know about you a little bit, maybe 80%. And then when you guys go on a date, she's kind of like prepared already. You know what I'm saying? She knows who she's dealing with, especially when you're on Google, when they can't just check you out. Okay, cool. You know what? That's what he does. Cool. I get it. Boom, 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 boom. All right, cool. Noted. And then by the time you guys go on a date, she's kind of on her performative mindset. Because, again, since we don't know who's holding the golden key, so, you know what I'm saying, we're going to keep looking for it. So what if, in her mind, I am her golden key or vice versa? So don't y'all think that it's easy to perform so that we can like you better, or so that we can feel quote-unquote attracted to you and start building with y'all? And sometimes, man, like no matter how, no matter how wise we are, or no matter how experienced we are, we life, we just don't know y'all. We just don't know for sure. It's kind of like a gamble for me sometimes. You hope that that's the one. You wish, you pray for it. You know what I'm saying? And God forbid that you got live together for 10 years and just so that you found out, on your 11th years that wasn't the one. You know what I'm saying? It's tricky. I think that it's super complicated. It's not difficult though, but I think that it is complicated to really, feel convinced and say, hey, you know what, that's the one. Maybe 40 years ago it was easier, but now with all these social medias, with all these options, because the way I see it, if I go on a date with the girl, I'm an option, she's an option. So it's kind of like a mind game going on. Let me see if she fits, or let me see if he fits into my dream or my goals or whatever I got going on. It's a question mark for me. So I'm not sure.
I don't know. I hear you, Chris, and I'm gonna say this and go back on mute to let the stage flow. And I'm gonna say this with all love, so I hope that it's received with my intentions. But when I hear stuff like that, it sounds like we want other people to make up for the work that we don't want to do, right? So if I know that there are several thousands and thousands of men out there who would only want to sleep with me, but have no intentions on marrying me, have no intentions about, I am not bringing that baggage to DM or Sims or Justin or whoever the person is that I'm going out on this date with. The onus is not on him to prove to me that this connotation doesn't exist within him. That is my baggage that I've collected, and it is up to me to vet properly so I don't end up in that situation, right? So am I looking for clues and signs and red flags that, this could happen? Absolutely. But I am also not expecting him to jump over the moon to prove to me that his intentions are pure. The same way that me personally, I never have and I never will go out of my way to prove to a man that my intentions for him are absolutely pure. I am going to show up as Leslie. I am going to have my standards. There are some things that I will express. There are other things that I will hold close to my vest because it's not for you to know at that moment and at that stage of dating. And as we continue to get to know each other, I will evaluate if this is something worth continuing to invest in, or if we're just not a good match and there's no hard feelings and you go your way and I go mine. But you cannot go into again, I'm not a dating professional. I'm not a dating coach. This is just Leslie's vibes. In my opinion, you cannot go into the dating world with your baggage and your insecurities and your apprehensions and expect as if the dating pool owes you something. They don't owe you anything. You owe it to yourself to develop vetting techniques. You owe it to yourself to heal and develop healthy mechanisms so you can navigate that pool. because no one's going to do that for you. So those are just my thoughts.
Can I say something else again?
Go ahead, popcorn style.
Yeah, I kind of wanted also to unpack the word. What does building someone actually means? One, I feel like the word is very like to tell someone I built you is very condescending and disrespectful. And it kind of gives me like Ike Turner narcissist vibes. I made, like when he told what's her name, Tina Turner, I made you, I built you. In terms of like her career, despite the fact that she was very talented, she worked and practiced so many hours singing and built legions of fans. And so that's one. And then number two, the whole I built you doesn't really make any sense, especially when you look at numbers and data and statistics. In terms of like how wealth is built, grows over time. It grows slowly over time. People careers grow slowly, a lot of times over time. And even with Barack Obama, he didn't start off as the president. Unless you're like in some super wealthy family where you had this big inheritance, people are really, their careers are growing over time. And if you actually look at the statistics in terms of Americans, in terms of their financial stability, a lot of more Americans are feeling less financially secure. Was it 70-something% of Americans can't afford a $500 emergency expense? So there's a lot of people need to do a lot of self-development and personally, because the numbers are just not adding up in terms of like reality. And so I don't understand what does build you mean, because nobody, I would never, even if I help someone, I have friends who I made put them on or introduce them to this other person, I would never go back around and tell my friend I built you. That sounds like very disrespectful to me, even though I may have helped them, and then there are people that have helped me. I just feel like that's like rubbing something in someone's face, and almost like a narcissistic comment in my opinion.
So I'll be honest with you. I'll throw up that I built somebody in a heartbeat, because what I mean is, you get some people who are good at their craft. But baby, let's face it, being good at your craft isn't good enough to make it. I know plenty of talented people. I know singers that are more talented than the current field of Grammy nominees. And they'll never be Grammy nominees because they don't know how to network. They don't know how to play the politics that are associated with it. And so I think we've got to be cautious when we rely on our skills and our talents by themselves to think that we don't need people. And so for as many people there are that say I built you and they come across as narcissistic, there's just as many people who are saying I did this on my own, and that's just not accurate. The data doesn't support that either. As it relates to the dating, world, and as it relates to in the Black community, and as it relates to wealth building, it does take partnership. See, Kayla, I said that word partnership. It does take partnership. It does take, and I'll be honest with you, this was kind of revealed to me. The other day, just in some of my toxic thinking, that the way that I've kind of expressed partnership throughout this app, I think has come across as somewhat dictatorly, and that's not what it is. But one partner has sweat equity, the other partner has financial equity. But both of those partners together, that's what's going to be the thing to advance the community. And I just use myself in my relationship. I'm open and saying, this is not a 50-50 relationship. We're not 50-50 as far as, we're not 50-50 as far as decision making. We're not 50-50 as far as, as far as the bills are concerned. We're not 50-50. And she shot back and was just like, yeah, we're 51-49. I was like, what? Huh? And it makes sense after it was explained to me. But I think for as many women who are looking for the man who's able to have that 51-49, I think there aren't enough men who are positioning themselves to kind of demand what it is
know what I mean? Like, do you have the right to expect what it is that you expect? And for as many women as I think don't have the right to do that, I think there are just as many men, you know, who have these expectations of women where it's like, bro, but dog, you make $42,000 a year. Like you want your woman to give it up when you want it. You want her to do this. Well, bro, I mean, she works 40 hours a week and then comes home and is trying to do like the wife thing too. Like, bro, that's not going to cut it. But then there's, you know, there are women who are saying, you know, I want my man to do this, that. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, you got to support that man so that he's able to accomplish those things. And when you start looking at it that way, you're building each other. And I don't think interdependency is a bad thing. I think it's within interdependency that we think we've done it on our own that the problem really comes up, if that makes sense.
Toxic Michael.
Listen, see, I don't even understand. See, I'm intentionally trying not to be toxic.
Can I say this? Can I say, they may not say, I built you, but they do say, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have this. Take it, for example, Mary J. Blige. How the hell, excuse my expression, this man feel like she owed him all this money? She did the work. But in that mentality of how people think, the mindset of people, some men, some, not all, some, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have this. I'll land my plane right there.
I'm trying to get that nigga's playbook, to be honest with you. I'll just be honest with you. Like, I want his playbook. I'm trying to get paid.
I want to piggyback. Who was I was just talking? Miss Angela? Is that who that was?
Yeah.
And I don't mean to make you feel old. It's just respect.
It's okay. They all call me this.
You mean young Angela?
What?
You mean young Angela?
Whatever, y'all. Go ahead, sweetie.
So, you know what was ironic about that when Mary J. Blige's husband did that? People had so much to say, and you know, right or wrong, people had things to say. But do you know when Dr. Dre's wife was doing that, nobody said anything? Nobody said nothing. Not absolutely. Not people didn't say it in the way they said it about Mary J. Blige's husband. They were saying it in a way like she was there with, she was married to him. You know, she was by his side, you know, when he was making his money, and she deserves that, and this and the third. And sometimes the energy confuses me. It's like, well, why didn't people have that kind of energy when it came to Mary J. Blige's husband, like they had for Dr. Dre's wife? I think her demands were very out of pocket. $500,000 for entertainment. Who do you want to entertain you? But the energy's different when it shifts from a man to a woman to a man, and I've noticed that, you know, in our community, there's a different reaction. I'm gonna say this last thing, and I'm gonna let someone else have the floor. Just like a lot of us know the reality TV star Delicious. It just came out yesterday that she posted on social media that the guy she was dating, the one that was in prison for a very long time, the guy she was dating, she instantly went to social media. He's a narcissist. He's a liar. He's a cheat. And the whole social media dragged him yesterday. And I put out there, I don't believe her. I don't believe her. You know, and people came for me. What came out today that he filed for divorce from her and that she was cheating. But the energy is so different when it's like a woman. When a woman is been hurt by a man, cheated, betrayed, the energy is different. But if a man comes out and say he's been hurt, betrayed, and things like that, I know I'm kind of, you know, going somewhere else. I'm just piggybacking off what she said. It's like the energy is kind of different. It's like a double standard.
So I think just as it relates to the whole money thing,
And I'll be honest with you, I think this is part of the problem in our community is black people too are too interested in a meritocracy, which is crazy to me. A man's finances are weighted more heavily than a woman's are any day of the week, which is why you hear about a woman, you hear about Dr. Dre's wife, who's like, yo, I need $500 million so I can do X, Y, Z. Nobody said anything, but then you got Mary J. Blige's husband who's like, yo, hey, I need the same thing. It's because his finances are weighted heavier. His finances as a man, doesn't matter what his wife is doing, his finances as a man are weighted heavier than his wife's or another woman who's getting divorced. Just as well, it's like a woman's looks are weighted heavier than a man. It's like, yo, how can men get to be big, fat, and this, and get any other man that they want, get any woman that they want, but a woman can't do the same thing? It's because y'all are weighted differently. You know what I mean? Like a woman's aesthetic is weighted heavier than a man's aesthetic. It's just a reality behind it. And so when I hear about men who are going through that, I sympathize with them, but for me, I've also got to say, like, yo, dog, you can't go out and do something like this. Like, it's men like that make it tougher for a lot of other black men out here right now. It's like, hey, dog, you making it like you're giving the rest of us a bad reputation, like we're all out to do the same thing or that we have the potential to do the same thing, when a lot of us won't do something like that. So when I hear like a man is judged differently than a woman, it's because we're weighted differently. And until we accept that, I think we're just going to be in this endless cycle.
I have to say that being on this app for, over a year now, I definitely heard a lot of pushback when it came to Dr. Dre's wife. It may have been the circles that I sometimes found myself in, but there were a number of rooms that were done every time something was, I guess, shared in the media about maybe her demands or what have you, and I guess like the final ruling when it came to like the settlement for their divorce. So I definitely heard a lot of pushback when it came to her. I only learned about their whole situation really on Clubhouse, actually. So I agree that there can be a difference, but in that particular situation, I definitely heard a lot of people who disagreed with her position and like her demands. But then I would also say that it probably has to do with like maybe whether or not we're talking about men pushing back against it or whether or not we're talking about women, right? I didn't necessarily hear a lot of women taking issue with her demands, but for sure there were a lot of men who were like, she wasn't there. She wasn't there at the very beginning. How dare she ask for as much as she's asking for? So I definitely heard a lot of outrage coming from men, for sure.
And that's what I'm talking about from, women. A lot of people, I have to be honest, they really don't like my platform. I do, speak a lot about, the things that men go through and experience at a double standard. And I think I touch more on that because there's not a lot of people that are doing that. I have black women come to me and be like, you're a black woman. Like, why are you doing this? Because there's so much women's empowerment out here. Like, how much men's empowerment do y'all really know about? Where they're talking about the importance of, the black man's mental health and things like that. There's not a lot. There's not a lot of resources for black men really at all, if, we want to be honest. And that's my problem to me, and I'm gonna be honest, I feel like some of those women were with them, for the money, for the security. I'm not gonna say all, but didn't love them, for who they were. If I can say that there's a big double standard. I don't think men are getting with us and requiring us to have what we're requiring them to have, if that makes sense. I don't see a large demand, of men, saying a woman I don't want no broke woman, or I don't want a woman that makes 41,000, and I don't really see that, at a high percent than it is with us women. I also want to add that that kind of mindset could have somebody miss out on their blessing. Let's just look at some of the people that like a lot of people like Tyler Perry, and their fans and things like that. When Tyler Perry was sleeping in his car and 5 people was at his place, they wouldn't have paid him no attention. Now he's popular, he's a celebrity, doing different things, and everybody's paying him some attention. People didn't know he was homeless sleeping in his car. Probably nobody would have even dated him, or took 2 looks at him. But to be honest with you, that was just a season of his life, and that's what I try to explain to a lot of women. Don't judge a man by the season that he's in. And I stress that because someone could miss out on their blessing of a good man. All good men are not rich. I'm gonna leave it there.
No, I appreciate what you said. We share very similar viewpoints when it comes to a lot of things. I appreciate that, because you don't hear a lot of that on this app. Let me just say, I clear rooms out often. But on the topic that we're discussing, I think that, it's one thing to have standards, right? Because I also have standards for myself. And I think that sometimes the issue, particularly I'll say on this app, is you have a lot of women who confuse, I guess, like certain standards or whatever with like needs, right? And so, and in doing that, they kind of miss noting character and placing importance on character and allowing that to be, the guiding point or whatever or the starting point, like beginning with character, getting to know whether or not this is actually someone you actually like, someone whose values and morals are in alignment with your own, and going from there. I was married for a very long time, and I don't really have many issues with like getting anyone to be attracted, right? I think that probably a huge part of that is the fact that it's important to like connect with the person. For me personally, it's about connecting on a spiritual level, like first being able to identify that actually, there's a lot that we have in common. What a lot of women don't realize is there's so much that we offer and so much that we bring to the table as women. And you're right, men don't have these requirements about like income and all these other things, whatever maybe some men do and whatever, but in general, typically men don't have all the requirements that we have, for them, for us, right? And so, there's something to be said for a hardworking man who absolutely adores you and wants to protect you, wants to love you, and do all these other things, whatever, and be there for you, right? There's something to be said for teamwork and partnership. And there's a lot to be said for aligning yourself with the right person and being able to build whatever it is that you want for yourself. So you can have those standards or whatever and recognize that if you connect with the right person, there's really no limit to how far you can go. I think that a lot of women don't realize that, especially when you consider like the real numbers, what the numbers really look like. That pool of men who are making $100,000 or $100,000, per year or better, it's not as big as
that's a woman speaking.
Women seem to believe that number is. But you can get there if you've aligned yourself with the right man. You can help him get to where it is that he wants to go. You can get to wherever it is that you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
But to place those restrictions on him or those demands on him not recognizing that really it's about his character and not about his wallet, is the cause of so many women like missing out on their blessings and still being single. And I'll just end there.
Can I jump in real quick? I want to share this because I always talk about how your blessing can come wrapped in struggle. And like I said, every good man, isn't in corporate America, isn't an entrepreneur. I know a guy, and he came home from prison, and he was working at McDonald's, and I think women just it's just something about a man that works at McDonald's. I don't know what it is. McDonald's is a job too, but he worked at McDonald's, and he didn't have like the best gear and stuff like that, and a lot of women turned him away, and it was so crazy. But then he turned around and he bought a franchise. He bought a McDonald's. And it was like fascinating when I was listening to his story, because women turned him away but didn't even get to know him. They allowed McDonald's to block what could have been a blessing. That he didn't dress the best to block a blessing. They let all of that block a potential blessing. When this man was saving his money, living in a room, but he was trying to buy the McDonald's. And he even told me, a woman that he tried to talk to, he was at the McDonald's that he owned, and then she wanted to talk to him. Then she wanted him to take her out. But you didn't want to quote unquote struggle with him, or maybe not struggle, but you didn't want to get to know him at his lowest though. But you wanted to enjoy the fruits of his labor. Anybody want to talk about that?
Hey, I have a question to add on to that, in terms of the fruits of the labor and all that kind of stuff. So let's say that the fruit is there, right? And so what happens when that fruit rots and, you're riding in the limo and then it breaks down, and now you might not have that limousine anymore. You might have to ride on the bus. So, like, are women going to just leave now that they have to, like, their lifestyle has drastically changed? Because one thing since the pandemic has taught a lot of people is that you can be up and mighty all one day, but a lot of people lost so much during this pandemic. And so what happens during these hard times within the marriage or relationship? Are you just go to the next best thing?
I think people like microwavable marriages. I think a lot of women want these relationships that they can just throw in the microwave and it just poof turns into like magic, whatever it is that they've concocted like in their heads. I think that people watch a little too much TV, honestly. They're probably on social media a little too much and believing too much of what they see, rather than allowing themselves to have their own reality and have their own experience with individuals, right? And I just think people are too busy comparing relationships instead of like really recognizing that there's something to be said for being in your own relationship and cultivating the relationship that you have, and helping to guide it in the direction that you want it to go in, like actively participating in your relationship so that you can grow and develop your relationship into what it is that you want together, right? You connect with someone who has the same goals and aspirations and dreams that you have, because the thing about it is, I hear people talking about the future that they want for themselves, and this is the vision that I have for myself, which is all well and fine. I think that sometimes when we overplan things, we end up we plan things so heavily, right, and so tightly, so closely, that we actually end up missing out on what God has for us. Like, we end up missing out on the surprise or whatever that life actually has to offer. Because if you want to control everything down to the T, you're going to miss something. You know what I mean? You're going to miss something that maybe, because we don't know everything, we don't know everything that's for us. We can say that I want this, I think I want that, I know I want this, but what you really need is something altogether different. And so really having someone who takes care of your soul and takes care of your spirit and all these other things is far more valuable than a bank account. I mean, that can grow too, right? But it has to begin with somebody who actually really wants to cultivate something with you, someone who absolutely wants the best for you. And so if that means that that man earns less than $100,000 or whatever, but he is absolutely the best thing that you've ever encountered in your life, I'm sure that you're going to give back to him. You're going to be, and if you're a woman who multiplies, you're going to multiply that anyway. There's no way that he's not going to win or be whatever it is that you desire this man to be. I mean,
I agree.
I know this from experience. Women don't even realize what they're missing out on and how hard a man will go for you if he knows that you have his back.
I would say no, Justin. Short and sweet. The answer would be no. The exact same way that men who overlook women that are not their personal preferred aesthetic, and they don't leave their wives when they get married and their wife gains weight during pregnancy, or she isn't as exciting physically as she was when you first married her, because he didn't just marry her for her looks, although looks were important. So the same way that men can stick it out, even though the woman doesn't look like Beyonce every single day the way that she did when they first got together, is the same that a woman who can make the vows better for worse, richer for poor, actually stick to them well. So, yeah.
I agree.
I agree with you. And however, I don't remember the statistics about that in terms of the divorce rate. In terms of, I know that women do initiate divorce more than men at like 80-something% versus men. And then if you actually look into the data, one of the top reasons is job loss. And so when I'm looking at these numbers, it's not adding up to me. So, like, you're a different breed, and like, I guess it's like marriage is supposed to be through harder, worse, and all that kind of stuff, but everybody is not like that. And so, and then a lot of the numbers are not really supporting that either.
Well, I mean, from the studies that I've seen, actually the number one reason for divorce was irreconcilable differences, and then the second was followed by financial reasons. And then in each of the articles, it does not specify like what the exact reason for those financial differences were, because I don't think they get to that much of the nitty gritty legally when you're filing divorce. But it simply said they had different visions for how the money should be ran in the house. There was a disagreement in that to that. Women file for divorces, not 80, even though it is the overwhelming majority. But the fact that finances do play such a large factor in marriages kind of goes back to my point earlier, where I believe people should have a standard for the finances. I believe it should be a discussion. I believe people should have a plan for their money, have a plan for their marriage's money, and actually have a plan for how they carry out the vision and the purpose of that marriage. Because as much as we like to live in a utopian world, we very much live in a capitalistic society, and you need money. So to leave it completely off the table, I think that's a little crazy. I don't think that Black people have an issue at all with looking at the character of the person and seeing if they genuinely connect and seeing if they have love and trust within each other. I actually think that we don't pay enough attention to money. Okay, so...
Go ahead, Les.
Les, were you done? I'm done, beloved.
Hey, I just PTR'd. So this is the study I was actually referring to. I didn't remember numbers, but if a husband or a man, if he does lose his job, the divorce rates for that particular marriage, it goes up by 68%. And even if he gets a job after that, the risk still is higher. It goes down to 40%, but it still is higher if that particular husband or man did not lose a job during their marriage, according to this particular study.
I've gotten to a place where I
mean, I think two things can be true. I think that it's absolutely okay to have standards. I definitely think that, and especially the older you get,
Give me a moment, y'all. I don't know what happened with my connection. Give me a moment to get back on. Something was going on.
that I don't know, like in my head,
There we
I'm
go.
trying to figure out how do you prevent yourself from falling in love with someone who makes maybe a certain amount of money that isn't desirable to you? Like, how do you turn it off? Like, what if you meet a guy and everything about him is great? He makes $41K. So is it automatic, like, oh, I don't like him no more? And same with men. Is it like once you find out the income level, it's like shut off and I'm done? Because I mean, for me personally, I don't really feel like I had control over falling for my husband, but I also kind of felt like it was something that I was more so I don't know how to explain it. You turn it on and off when it comes to the income standard? Like, I guess that's kind of my question, and both for men and women. I mean, is it one of those things where I think someone had mentioned it earlier, where you kind of bring the income up first, and then based off of that, you kind of move forward and say, oh, no, I'm not interested? Or, like, what does that look like nowadays? I guess that's kind of what I'm wondering.
What some of the dating coaches I've seen on here are telling women or giving advice that you should ask salary on the first date when you first meet them. And, like, it's not what you do for a living. It's like, what is your salary? And that determines if you should proceed forward or not.
Oh, okay. Anybody on the stage that saw it? I mean, I'm trying to piece it together, because I've been out the game a while. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to figure out, like, nowadays when it comes to the income thing, how does that work in the dating space now?
I would like to give some input. Well, I can't speak on a dating perspective, but I can speak on a marriage perspective. So you have to, it's a mindset, really. Like, I believe that we're wired a certain way. You know, men are wired a certain way. We're wired a certain way. But as someone was saying earlier, I'm not sure who that was. I apologize. We have to know, okay, one hand washes the other, but also be in as women, we're wired to build our households. We have to build, you know. And when I say build, I don't mean it like in a perspective of a man. I mean it, say for instance, you do, a man approaches you that, you know, he's everything you would want him to be, and then just as you mentioned, he's not getting paid a certain amount. Well, that's something you can build on. But it's just, and you can do it because we're wired in that way. But we're also wired to want a provider. So I'm thinking the reason why the divorce rate is like it is it's not just all the distractions going on, you know, of these fake lives or whatever the case may be. You know, you might be looking over here or there, and then we got our own thing going on. But it's a matter of us just looking at it from a realistic standpoint. And
knowing that inside of us, we're capable as women to build up the men that God has, placed in our lives, and don't stump on that opportunity just because that particular part of it doesn't fit at that time, So that's just my perspective. And the reason why I can say that, because I've been in a marriage where, of course, it hasn't always been financially, set up, but we've maintained it. We've worked together. We've balanced it out and had to learn how to love and respect one another, and build one another. And so, yeah, that's my perspective.
Also, I just want to say one last thing. So another space that I'm in as well is, like I said before, I think it's perfectly fine to, pass up a guy because maybe he's just, he's not pulling in the bread right now. But what I will say is, don't spin back the block. That's my only thing. If you pass up a man and he comes up, just don't spin back, because that's what my husband's ex tried to do. And I said, oh no, babes, it's way too late. It's way too late. And so, and like I said, that's kind of the risk you take. Like, you kind of have to use your discernment and say, okay, does this man have the ambition and the motivation to do more? Does he have a good head on his shoulders, or is he just, making 41K, chilling, playing Xbox, you know what I'm saying, and not really trying to further everything? I think the mindset is the biggest thing for me. And that's why even when I have discussions with my friends, like, I always tell them, I get it. I know it's not ideal for you to, necessarily be, if you had to choose, I guess, be with a man that maybe makes less than you. But when you are picking, just make sure you think long term and not just right now, right? So, like, you could have a guy who is making 100K, but what's his head look like? What's his mindset look like? Like, what kind of mindset is he working with? Because if it's not better than the dude with the 50K, I'm gonna tell you to go with the 50K. And that's just me. Like, I would never tell my friends, like, oh girl, he made what? Nah, and I don't even know nothing about him, right? Like, that's just not how I move. But yeah, that's my only thing is, if you pass, and that could really go for any guy, any income level. If you pass up on a guy and you see that he comes up with the the woman that decided to pull up into Sri Lanka, just don't spin the block back. Don't try to come back and be like, hey, big head. It's like, no, he's married now. Like, we good. So that's all I wanted to add.
I have a question. So, because, if we're looking at, and we're being realistic, and we're looking at the actual numbers, like those that have been shared in the room, in terms of like the percentage of Black men who are making six figures or better, like, what are women supposed to do who want to get married? And having the reality be what it is, like, what are those women supposed to do? Should they wait to find this man who makes six figures or better, or should she be alone and overlook those men who make less than that? Like, what is she supposed to do? Because that's what I'm curious about that part. Because of course there will be plenty of women who will connect with the men who make six figures or better, right? But for the other women, what are they to do?
And also,
brother Sid, you're very low.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I don't know if y'all can hear me. I think she should take the decision to the grave. If she wants to stick it out and wait for a high value man to appear, or she's gonna mix him in a pot, sugar and spice and everything nice like the Powerpuff Girls to make this man appear, she take her decision to the grave. That's what I said.
Not the grave.
Oh man.
Yeah, did I say something, y'all? Got a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your background a little fuzzy.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to clear that up.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm at the gym. I'm sorry. I heard the lady say, just ask, or the guy, he said, just ask them what their yearly salary is off top. Don't ever do that. Don't ever ask a man what his salary is off the top. Just want to include that.
I wasn't giving that advice. I'm saying that advice has been given out amongst several dating coaches on this particular application, and they said that is a winning strategy, and I actually argued against it. And that was actually one of my, I guess, first, like, quote unquote, I argued against it. I'll just keep it simple. But yeah, that was the advice that this particular individual coach and I guess other coaches who were supporting her stated, to ask what your salary is on the first date.
Are y'all, is it dinner time? Because a lot of y'all seem to be eating. But anywho.
It's hard, y'all. I want to say one more thing.
Mouth open. The southern old lady in me is about to lose my mind. But I'm going to throw it back to you, Harrell, in one quick second. I just want to say this. How beautiful would it be that we could find people who are willing to accept us when we're not operating at our best selves, and to accept the bare minimum for us? I think that's a very beautiful world, and I advocate for it. And I say, like, for the men who are not moving in their prime financial efficiency, make sure that your dating pool is reflective of where you are in life. If you know that you're not in a position to where you are competitive with the men financially who are more efficient than you in that moment, stop going for the women that don't belong in that category. Like, how about you chin check your standards too? How about we stop looking for the Kelly Rowlands and the Beyoncés and pay attention to some of the average Black women too, and love on some of the average Black women as well, versus thinking that the woman is the only one that needs to drop her standards and accept you when you are not at your most efficient moment, but you don't want to accept someone else when they're not in their most efficient moment. So just keep that same energy and share that same love. But go ahead.
Oh my God. So Harold, before you go, I'm going to be real fast. I just want to say I actually agree with that, Liz. Because the problem is, like, everybody thinks they're, like, exceptional. And I love that, right? Like, we love confidence. Like, I love that for us. But, like, I need some of you guys to, like, really, and I hate to say humble yourself, because that, I don't really like that. But, like, be realistic, right? Like, even when I was dating, I was not looking for somebody that was at an exceptional level, because I was not exceptional. I was not. I was about average, right, for my age. And so I looked for a bit above average for my age. And I do think that a lot of times, both men and women, I think sometimes we go after certain things that we know may be a little out of our reach, out of kind of like having that ambition, which I think is good. But the reality is that that's not really how dating works, because again, to Les's point, some of y'all not gonna get a Beyonce, and that's okay. Just like some of us are not gonna get a Morris Chestnut. That's also okay. It's just about being realistic. It's just about being realistic and really like working. Like, you could be top tier in your category. Like, you don't got to be top tier in everybody else's category, but if you in your category and you top tier in that, you'll be good. So that's all. But go ahead, Harold. I'm sorry.
I just have to chime in and say I agree with that completely. I'm gonna tell you why that's not gonna be a thing, right? All right, so let's talk about the average woman, right? I gotta be honest, right? So let's talk about the average woman that can put on, a nice wig and makeup and look like Beyonce, but she ain't. But because she looks like that, her energy is saying, I deserve a Morris Chestnut. But she's an average woman. But because she can make herself look like an IG model, she sees herself above the average man in her dating pool. And she works at Walmart. Not in Walmart.
Imagine men coming and saying, I don't want to women that wear.
No.
Is she a supervisor?
I'm going to turn them down. I'm muted on it. Imagine men coming and saying, I don't want a woman that wear weave or wigs or makeup or eyelashes, or a woman that got their body done, or Imagine that kind of world. These standards are wild.
Witchcraft.
Wow.
Right? These are the same women that know if they wash all of that foundation off, if they look in the mirror and really accepted themselves for who they are, they would know, damn, I don't deserve Morris Chestnut, but that's what they feel like when they put on their makeup. So maybe men should start dressing like we feel like we run shit and then just act like that, right? But that's what I'm saying. So it's everybody just needs to really take a step back, look in the mirror, and really assess themselves and where they are in life, their inner, what they really want. Because these women are going out there and they're saying, I don't want the regular guy. I don't want the security at the door. I want the guy that security is standing there for Mr. Man in VIP. That's who I want. And I would show the security a titty so I can get back there, so I can get him into bed and get pregnant for him. I'm just saying, this is what's happening. So it's not like average men won't date average women. We all know, like I've heard women say all the time, men chase anything. Maybe so. But a lot of the anything that men are chasing, they don't want us. Their standards are higher than us, even though they make less than us. And I think that's what Mike was talking about earlier. So I'll end there.
I just want, can y'all hear me? I don't want to talk. We're just going to be going in and out. I'm at the gym. I don't know if y'all hear me or not.
We can hear you.
Okay. I think there's levels and layers. I'm divorced. The last 3 ladies I dealt with was trash. I mean, they were very attractive. And I mean, you got a lot of women that's out here in the world with OnlyFans pages. We got women that's just, their spirit is messed up. And so I take the girl at the Walmart after dealing with these women. They're abusive, they're emasculating. It's not about like whether we got the money or not. It's about, do we want to deal with a situation where she gonna have standards for us, but she don't have standards for herself. So it's a real slippery slope on a lot of levels and layers. So I'll yield with that.
We're going popcorn style, y'all. Anybody could chime in. I know we got some new people on the stage. Welcome.
But I do like the picture, Les, that you painted, that if people could just accept people for where they're at. And I like something someone else said earlier, don't like me for what I have, like me for who I am. You know, I think if we can really, really, as a society, embody that, we will start seeing more marriages. You know, because the secret that I found out recently to unconditional love, right? I know everybody's going to be like, there's conditions to it, but it's a choice. You got to choose with every day in whatever relationship, anybody in here in a relationship right now, what's stopping you from cheating on whoever you're with? What's stopping you from making your work husband your real husband and not the one that you got home? A choice. You choose to stick with that partner. Like after every argument, a big blow up in the house about the toilet seat or whatever it is that y'all argue about, the drapes being the wrong color, whatever. What keeps you in that relationship? A choice. You choose with it every second of your day to stay within that relationship. And that's how love shows up, when you choose it. Because at any given time, you can stop choosing it, and then the love is gone. I will land my mic.
You know what's interesting? No, I'll say, you know what's interesting about this whole conversation? If you actually, the data actually suggests that if a woman was to marry a guy, at 41K, when men get married, they usually tend to make more money. And if you add kids to that, I don't know what it is about marriage and kids and all that kind of stuff. They actually had scientific, I don't remember the article in full, but in totality, but it's like based on like science a little bit too, in terms of like that man will like step up to try to like feed their children and don't want them to go bad. So a lot of them, when they do get married, their income significantly increases when they do get married. And so, yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Well, you know what it is about the kids in the marriage is because them kids in the marriage is expensive. That's why. They start hustling and bustling, boy. Them expenses start rolling in. Daycare, extracurriculars. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and they have it's purpose. They have purpose. They have a reason to want to excel, to do better, to strive, and to achieve more.
Not to mention that income
I hear said about the standards that we already set as men. Like to me, I'm just not understanding how we're pulling a woman who works at McDonald's but is physically, aesthetically appealing to the male eye, right? And making her equivalent with the average male when every time we turn around, y'all are consistently saying, we don't care about your degree, we don't care about your bag, we don't care about your career. Are you fine? Are you feminine? And are you peaceful? We consistently say that those are the priority things that men look for. And then when a woman fine-tunes those things and pulls away from focusing on her career, it's, oh, well, you the average and you looking down on me, but you make less than me, so on and so forth. Y'all set the standard about what you desired and what you wanted. And as women, the majority, we didn't complain. We didn't go back and say, well, why is it that you want me to be a 9? Why do I need to work on my femininity? What did we do? We went and got femininity coaches. We went and got fitness coaches. We went to therapy. We went and did all the things to prepare ourselves to be the most palatable towards the men we desire to court. But when it comes to us saying, we want you to, get your bag up, something you've known that you had to do since you were literally a teenager is to get your bag up, is something that as a grown adult, you are now upset about that you have to do in order to be competitive in the dating world. I am not saying it is the only thing that you bring to the table. I am very much a daddy's girl, and although my father spoiled me, the intangible things that man brought to that household are unmatched, and it's definitely something I look for in a husband. But be very clear, the bag was never in lack. He made sure that his wife and his children were covered. He made sure that he had us taken care of, both spiritually, mentally, and financially. And so I look for those things. But it's just crazy to me how men begin to complain about being competitive when we voice the standards that we're looking for. And then there's all these negative connotations with it from y'all, and you get real puffy in the chest and, excuse my language, quite a little pissy. But then when it comes to y'all voicing y'all standards, you just expect women to jump up and get it done overnight. You do not get to be the exception to the rule. You don't get to have your cake, eat your cake, then turn around and take my pie off my plate. It don't work like that. If you set a standard, let that be the standard, and don't cry and complain. We focus for equity over equality, then focus on that.
Can I chime in?
Absolutely.
I don't really think that's what men are saying. I think I really, if we really are listening and us as women take our feelings out of the situation, I think they're basically just saying that they want us to be with them for who they are and not what they have. Because like I've said before, every season of a person's life is different. You could sit up here, you can have all the standards that you want to in life. You can have all the standards in a mate, and you may meet them that way. But every season of life is not going to be that way. I've seen people get married and they're up, and then they go through a season where they're down and they're struggling, and they may be going through something. What is that person with these high financial standards going to do? Leave that person? Marriage is not a walk in the park all the time. So I think they just want to know, are we going to be with them for them or what they have?
Yeah, and that's a fact. Yeah, and I guess I'm more modern when it comes to this. I don't really align with the ideology about, I don't really even understand about this whole rhetoric about, women having education, being masculine. That makes no sense to me. How is men being educated masculine? That doesn't make any sense. So I don't really align with that. And if you actually look at, I'm like a numbers person, so I love data. So if you actually look at the data, the people who are getting married, they're married on their social economic level. So most of the people in this country are marrying doctors, or somebody who's equivalent from their social background, et cetera, whether it be education. Let me tell you this too. It has shown that the more educated you are,
both particular partners, the longer chance your marriage, according to the data, their marriages are lasting longer than everyone else's. So I don't align with this whole ideology about having like an airhead who's like beautiful but have no intelligence, and then also on top of that saying that education is masculine. That's like so stupid. I don't know, but hey, that's just me.
Hey, I wanted to chime in real quick before I go. Taylor, man, thank you so much for the space. Hey, everyone. Hope y'all having a great evening. Multitasking here with the family. I've said this in a lot of rooms. Like as a career coach consultant, I work with a lot of, women of color, Black women, helping them with their careers and their jobs and businesses. And I'm a bit of a numbers guy myself. And I've seen just a tremendous increase in more Black women of color, like stepping up in different career spaces, different industries. They're not only getting the bag, but they're also getting degrees, masters, PhDs. They're trendsetters. They're being the first they're just being the first of so many different things. That being said, when I speak with these women, they'll share with me, they'll ask me for marriage advice, right? Because they want to be wives as well. And this is just my own personal experience. Prior to coming to Clubhouse, I never heard of the traditional versus modern dynamic. Because in my own experience, these women would tell me that they just want a partner, right? They just want a partner to build with. They just want a man who definitely can provide, but they're willing to support in the finances. They're willing to, I guess y'all will call it 50-50 thing, but they don't view it like that. They're just like, well, they understand, they get times can be hard. So they're like, yeah, because I want to move up in my career too. I want to be with a man who's going to help me achieve certain goals as I want to help them achieve certain goals, right? So yeah, they don't want to bum, but they also understand that, yeah, this guy got to be in something, you know what I'm saying? Like something that's going to bring, some longevity. It's going to help build legacy. So when I'm in these conversations, it's just really interesting, and I'm just listening and learning. But I will say that there's more women nowadays that want to pursue their careers. They want to elevate in that, but they also want to be wives as well. So there is this kind of space for compromise. I don't know if this is making sense to y'all, but that's what I'm seeing personally. And it's no knock on women who want that traditional lifestyle, who want to be a stay-at-home wife. I think that's great if you can get that, if that's what you really want, and if a man comes along that can provide that for you, that's great. But just from what I've seen, I'm just seeing more women wanting men who will support them in what they're trying to achieve career-wise, business-wise, and they want to do the same thing for them. And they're finding it difficult to find those kind of men because either A, the men that they've encountered, they're not really doing anything in their careers, they're not really trying to build and grow, or B, to Les's point, they're like flip-floppy, right? They'll seem like they are supportive, but it seems like they're supportive in terms of career and going back to school, but then they'll get insecure or just kind of get passive aggressive. Why do you want to go back to school for what? You don't need, they'll say certain things in a way where in the women's eyes, they're like, well, it seems like you're insecure about me at this level in my life, but I'm not tearing you down, but it seems like there's some men that they've encountered that are pretty insecure about where these women are professionally. So it's interesting, but I just wanted to add that piece to the conversation because just again, from what I've seen in certain networks and circles, it's like this is like the constant conversation. Like, why are some men intimidated by women who are like really stepping it up professionally? So yeah, I'll close.
Well, I think honestly, I think a lot of this income level conversation, because there was a whole new argument. They don't raise it to 65. They was like, is 65K enough to have a stay at home wife? And everybody wanted to tussle and all that. And for me, I really think it stems from this whole traditional versus modern war that has sprouted, where it's like, and crazy enough, it's mostly coming from women. Like, what's going on? Like, I'm confused because I get it. Like, I get both sides. I feel like I can be very balanced with my thought process. So on one end, I understand desiring for a man to be able to hold it down 100% financially. I get that. But I also think that even if you purposely, go and you're seeking a man and you find him, right? And I brought this up in another room, and I'm like, so what happens if, I don't know, he loses a leg? Like, what happens if, he no longer is in the same position he was in before? And basically the response I got was, well, traditional man would make sure that even if something happened to him, that the family is good. Okay, cool, I suppose. But again, that's going to depend on age. That's going to depend on so many different factors. And I think even just on Clubhouse, most of these people, they don't even got that. So it's crazy how a lot of these conversations, it's like, if something happened to your car and it's $350, some of y'all gonna be sweating, right? And I get it. I've been there. But the reality is I think sometimes we start talking from a place of privilege, and that's the only thing that bothers me about the income conversation. Because I didn't come from money. I didn't come from a wealth of resources. I didn't come from that lifestyle. So I know what it's like not to be living on the street, but on budgets, right? We're not doing nothing extra. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. And I'm not saying that that's what I promote, but I just feel like in my head, it does make sense that if you know that your bag ain't huge and you making $41.50, if you combine that with another $41.50, you have a 6-figure household, right? Granted, obviously it's not going to be immediately 6 figures, right? Because you got to think about taxes and stuff like that. But 2 incomes is better than 1. And what I've usually seen happen is if you do put 2 incomes together, usually over time, guess what? Eventually, sis, you probably not going to have to work. You probably could get to a place where now either both y'all are entrepreneurs, you work for him, or he just straight up can hold it down with whatever he has going on. But again, I think a lot of people don't want to do that. And if I'm honest, yeah, that's not really the most desirable and most comfortable spot to be in. But for me, my biggest thing when I was dating, I was looking for peace. The bag is great. It is what it is. I already know people gonna get with me. The bag will be secured. So, I don't have to worry about that. But can you bring me peace? Can you not cheat? Can you not talk to me crazy? Can we just get the basics? We can work on the bag, but we can't work on your character because you old, and I'm not gonna raise you. So, for me, I guess my mindset was just in a different space at that time. However, like I said, I'm fair. If I was single now at 27, I do believe that I may be in a different headspace. Now, am I saying I'd be 6 figures or nothing? No. But I don't know if I would necessarily have the same mindset being single when I'm almost 30 as opposed to when I'm 20. So hopefully that makes sense.
As you shouldn't, sis. As you shouldn't. Kudos to you.
And Kayla, to piggyback off what you were just saying, people are not even living that reality. Look, don't want to go back to numbers. Most Americans are in dual income. You can actually look at the data and statistics. I think it's 50%, 70-something% lives in full-time income, and then another 10 or 15 live in some type of part-time, full-time dynamic. So 70-something% of this country is in some type of dual income when it comes to people who are, partners or whatever. So, and I think what's happening is that as modern times, ideologies change, people are living in modern times, inflation goes up, people are doing whatever works for them. And then everybody who's in dual income doesn't necessarily mean that you're struggling and living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people, they're using that money wisely and living, below their means, and they're actually taking the extra discretionary income and actually investing in it and retiring early. And then this whole conversation about who works and who don't is it doesn't really, it doesn't really involve you anymore, because you have wisely set yourself up so that you can actually leave corporate America. So I don't know. I think some of these conversations are just not based in reality. And personally, I support both. So whatever works for you. So if you are in a dynamic where you can live in a single household income and you living very well and everything is like gravy, kudos to you. However, for the majority of especially Black Americans, I feel like economically, just coming from an economic and a financial point of view, the most I feel like the best way to create generational wealth for most Black families is through dual income, where I highly recommend that live off like your husband's income in terms of like your living expenses and stuff, and then the wife's income can actually go towards like index funds and ETFs, etc., and just really set you both up so that you can actually do some like live, retire, like Kayla said, become an entrepreneur later. And let me tell you something about this entrepreneur stuff. Don't think like entrepreneurship is not easy, so don't think that it's a golden ticket to being some type of super millionaire. Like a lot of people make it look good on social media. So, and entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and it is not for the faint of heart. And I just want to put it out there.
Yeah, can I add a little bit?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so hey, this is Brent. Yeah, definitely want to agree with Kayla and other gentlemen that was just speaking. I was in another room earlier, and it was kind of really similar conversation, but the title of the room was like, why don't average women marry or get with average men? But the conversation kind of meandered into the traditional versus modern. And some of the women on stage were saying that, similar to what Kayla was saying, like, if I'm in a traditional relationship, I want to stay in my feminine. I want my partner to basically take care of everything, right? So I kind of challenge that a little bit, similar to what Kayla was saying, in terms of like understanding, all right, so we're going to have all the risk on one person, right? And if something happens to that person, what mechanism would he have in place to make sure he takes care of the family? I'm more of a, making sure that I have a partner that I could rely on to say, hey, honey, this is the situation, this part of the business is struggling. I may need you to help me out for a little bit, and can you step in and help out? And she would definitely be in that position to say, yeah, I can help out a little bit, and making sure that the money and everything else continues to flow. So I'm just I don't understand the whole conversation around this like traditional like I'm not going to do anything in terms of like other than put the pussy on the pedestal and wash your clothes and do all these other things. I mean, if a guy's super established and he's like in his late 30s and he's making high six figures, like I don't see the value proposition there, So and that was what I was trying to bring up. I was married very early, but I was ambitious and enterprising, so I knew I was going to be successful. So my wife essentially stuck with me. We had young kids, but I knew I was going to be successful. We started off, making normal money, but I always knew that she would have my back at any time where I would falter. And I think that's at least the place I think we should be, having a partnership that you can trust each other, be each other's confidant and trusted advisor. I don't understand this whole this new quote-unquote traditional kind of setup where the wife is doing what? I mean, I don't understand that. You expect the man to do everything? absolutely everything. And if he asks you to do something, he's looked upon as not masculine, or you putting your spouse in a masculine position. No, I don't think so. I think if you're a partner, you can trust each other, and if you want the man to be in an emotional space where he can have those types of conversations and say, hey, honey, this is what's going on, and she doesn't judge you and have these expectations, I think that's a better relationship to be in. This is Brent. I'm done talking.
Brent, I definitely think that you bring up a good point there. And I'm going to say this, and I'll stop hogging the mic. I think that's my favorite, like, not to toot my own horn, but that's my favorite thing about me, is that I'm very, very multifaceted, right? So, like, I can be the, what is it called? The corporate hottie, Liz? The corporate hottie. I can be the corporate hottie. But if my husband were to come to me and be like, look, I need you at home. We're going to pull her out of daycare, and I need you to be at home with her. Cool. Guess what? I'm out, and I'm in the home, and I'm momming 24/7. I'm cooking. I'm cleaning. And guess what? As soon as I'm ready, I'm going to go right back to being a corporate hottie, and I can bounce in and out of both depending on what season that I'm in or that we're in, right? And I think, honestly, that's a really good skill to have with the way things are right now. And I think that's kind of what bothers me about a lot of these people's rhetoric is it sounds cute when you say it on Clubhouse, but, like, let's take it into real life, right? If we know that majority of people are not in the situation that you're in, we can't have that conversation because it's not going to click. How can you speak to a man or a woman who's not in your tax bracket, probably 3 brackets below yours, and be like, this is how it should be, or he doesn't love you? Well, there's a gray area, right? Like, well, there might be certain things that we need to consider before we just rule out the relationship. And I think that's kind of what bothers me is the whole, like, trying to take it back to what we did in the old days. We're never going to do that again because we're never going to be there again, right? Just like whatever happens in the next, right? And it's just, that's kind of what bothers me. Like, I love high expectations. I'm not telling people to lower their standards. I'm not telling people to switch up what you want. But what I am saying is when we have these conversations, let's be realistic. It's so simple to just, okay, I know I may be privileged, but let me think about what I'm saying and what I'm teaching people to do in their real life. And so it's interesting because I feel like a lot of the times, one, the conversations are very circular. And so I just wonder, after a whole year of this, has anybody learned anything? Did anybody take it off the app? Did anybody, like, what happened in this year that we've been talking about this? And the married people, have been spending time trying to give their perspective, and half of y'all don't want to hear it. And then you cry about being single. And I'm not weaponizing it, because if you desire to be married, cool. Like, I'm trying to help. I really am. I'm not an expert, but I can give you what I know. But if you don't desire that, don't even argue. Don't even talk. Just stay on mute, because there's nothing for you to contribute at this point. So that's my thing, is just, I think when we talk about these things, like, I get it, especially, like, you know, I shout out to my elders. I love y'all, but we not going back there. We not. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. We get more and more modern every day. We got more and more Black women being entrepreneurs. They got bags. Like, it's not going to be that way. You're going to have women who say, look, I could be a wife and a mom, but I can also be about my bag. I can be in corporate America. I can flip it on and off whenever I want. That's a skill. That's a real skill. So that's it. I'm going to stop hogging the mic now.
And Kayla.
Wait, hold on just. Real quick. I agree with everything Kayla said. I totally agree. I just want to say, like, I basically wanted to say what she just said. And that's why I was referencing my real life experience meeting more. I'm meeting more and more women who want to get their bag and want to get, like, up in their career, and they still want to be wives. I've rarely met women who that traditional route. I just, like, I've seen it on Clubhouse, but, like, in real life, I haven't met anyone that was like, yeah, if he doesn't make this certain income or if he doesn't pay all the bills, it's like, no. As long as he's on his purpose and he's bringing in something, he's in a career, he's doing something that's going to elevate him, like, I just want to work with this man. Like, and it's all the other intangibles as well. So there is this realistic part, but I just wanted to shout out Kayla because I agree with everything you said, and that's exactly how I feel. Even as a married man, it's kind of like, yeah, that's like real stuff, because I know married couples and it's like it's not, it's very modern. It's not there. It's a mix of both. It's like the man is making a little bit more. He's not paying all the bills. He's paying most of the bills, but like the wife is like paying like the Netflix or the Hulu or like the phone bill, like the cell phone bill or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if he needs a little support, like, she got him. You know what I mean? Like, there's no like, oh, you're not a good husband, you're terrible. So okay, babe, I got you, no problem. It's like, it's those kind of dynamics and compromise and conversations, and it's, again, it's whatever strategies couples do to make sure that their marriages thrive. I think that is the more important, I guess, conversation. Like, figure out a dynamic with someone that will elevate your marriage and your relationship to next levels. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really what it's all about. So I'll close there.
I just want to say this really quickly, because Kayla is like my air sister from another mister. And you know that it's all love, but you knew I was coming in hot after you. You knew I was going to come in hot. I will say this. My opinion on this has not changed since the conversation a year ago. If anything, I've doubled down on it, right? Because what I hear from the other side, and this is not you specifically, Kayla, at all, but what I hear from the other side is either A, women who do not hold the same standards, and instead of explaining and exploring their standard, they rather bash, belittle, and demean a woman who has a different standard than hers, or either men who want to bargain and negotiate but aren't bringing anything to the negotiation table, who simply want you to drop your standard but aren't willing to compromise and drop things on their end as well. So if anything, I've doubled down on it even more. When it comes to the conversation about listening to married folk, I sit at the feet of married people. I am the youngest of my friend group. All of them are about between the ages of 38 and 47. So all of them are more than 10 years older than me. And I lean into their wisdom. I hear from them, I love them, I cherish them, and I appreciate them. But one thing I have come to learn is that there is not one roadmap to marriage, and how one person accessed marriage and what they did in their dating life and their dating strategy is not going to be the exact blueprint for another person. We are all different. We all have different standards. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different ideologies, and all of that comes together to create our dating tendencies and practices. And it's up to us to take all of that life experience and make it into a healthy decision and a healthy strategy moving forward. But again, it'll still look different. So I can sit and listen to 15 different married people about how their marriage works, how they chose their husband, what they look for in their wife, and soak all of it in and completely drop who I am and do what they did and still end up with no ring, because at the end of the day, I'm not them. And it's a reason why you and your husband, or, Curtis and his wife were compatible, because it was y'all two, not necessarily Leslie and whomever it is that I may or may not be dating. So to me, sometimes in these conversations, and I'll land here, and again, like, not necessarily the people that I roll with, because there's a sense of humility with my friends, but a lot of times on this app, there is a lack of humility that comes from people who are married that speak about their journey as if they have the golden key and that everyone should heed and yield to them, instead of acknowledging, yo, I had a plan, this was my plan, and this is what worked for me. Here's the information, do what you will with it. Versus, if you niggas don't listen to me, y'all gonna die alone. And more often than not, it comes across as the latter. And me personally,
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't think you were coming in hot at all. I definitely agree. And that's why I tell people, like, I'm not saying listen to me specifically, because there are many more folks that are way more qualified. But that's why I really do like Clubhouse. Even though there's a bunch of foolishness, you can at least take, I don't know, 5 to 10 people out of a room and piece it together to make it fit for you. Like, it doesn't have to be like you take what I say for law. But for me, even the people that I barely like to hear talk, sometimes I do take different perspectives from things they say, unfortunately. But it's just for me kind of like listening. And that's the only thing I tell people is like, I don't mind hearing different perspectives, but like what happens in a lot of these rooms is like, Les, like some people will be like, 1 minute they don't believe in marriage, but you want to debate with me about marriage. Like, how does that work? You know what I'm saying? And that's the only time that I really get annoyed is like, look, if you don't really see the value in this conversation, why are you going back and forth with me and trying to say I'm wrong? How does that work when I'm actually living it and you're not? And that's the only thing. That's the only thing I ask. And even in like that one room where the girl kind of threw shade because of how long it took for me to get married, it's like, look, I don't like to puff my chest, but if you want to compare stats, we can compare stats. Do you have what you want? Okay, so then why would you throw shade or throw stones at somebody who potentially can be someone that you do look to for something? It may not be the full blueprint, but I'm pretty sure I could say something to you to kind of make you think and get closer to where you want to be. So it's just things like that on Clubhouse specifically that I'm like, I'm not saying heed to married people, but like just the same way I will go into a business room, I know I'm not the smartest one in the room. I may have perspective, but I'm not going to go up there and act like I'm the professor, like I'm the king now. No, it's okay. Like, it's okay to just take certain pieces of what people say and think about it, right? Does it work for you? Does it not? Does it need to be tweaked? And that's what I do. Even some of the foolishness I hear, I'll be like, child, you sound absolutely crazy. However, I might tweak it and make it my own and turn it into my own concept and apply it to my life. So that's all. But I agree with you, Les.
And I think Curtis hit it right on the nail earlier. It takes a lot of work to be in a marriage. I've been married for 28 years, been with my wife 35 years. A lot of fucking work, excuse my language. It just takes a lot of work. At the end of the day, it's really about communication. I'm sure, Kelly, you may have heard this as well. It's really about communication. Liz, I'm sure you probably heard that, but I think that's probably the key piece, at least for me in my relationship, is really communication, not making assumptions, not having judgment. Those are the things that I think has helped me in my relationship with my wife. Ups and downs, in and outs, you go through these different chapters of life. But if you're willing to put in the work, because it's a lot of work. Even when we were talking about kind of this traditional versus modern, my wife really did work. She kind of had like jobs here and there, primarily when our kids were small. She homeschooled, did various things of that nature. But fast forward to now, I'm 51, she's 48. She kind of regrets not doing more and basically being, quote unquote, under me as much as she wanted to have some independence. So I don't know if that's her or if that's just a woman thing, but I know women go through more kind of chapters in the cycle than men. Men tend to try to come into a place where we are content. And what I've understood and what I've learned over my years, my wife likes to change things. She doesn't want to be too bored. She wants to do things differently. So those are the types of things, the nuances that I've learned. But again, it's really about communication, keeping things interesting, not keeping her bored, because that's just a cycle that I've seen. This is Brent. I'm done talking.
And I was just going to say that what confuses me about the conversations that we hear on Clubhouse is that when they assign gender roles to education, being masculine, and then also I've heard on several rooms dealing with the same particular topic that women working is out of order, and it's also not biblical, but if you actually look at the 18th century, even back to Egyptian women, they worked. They were doctors. Some of them, they made perfume, et cetera, et cetera. And then I heard, they used the biblical context and talking about it's not biblical, that's not God's order, but according to the Bible in Proverbs 31st, I don't want to make this a biblical conversation, but according to the Proverbs 31 woman, it stated, she worked, vigorously with her. She worked vigorously with her profits. She planted like fruits and vines, et cetera, et cetera. She makes linen and garments and sells them, and that sounds like an entrepreneur to me. And not only that, she looks at her trades and see that it's profitable. And also says from her profits, not her husband's profits, that she plants in the vineyard, in her vineyard. Then she actually sees a field, and I think she purchases it, and that sounds like a real estate investor. And then she's going about the community, and she's doing business trades with the merchants, and so that sounds like business partnerships. And so I don't understand like this whole ideology that, like I said, I support either side, but to say that it's masculine or women working is not godly or out of order. And then I've heard people use biblical context to support it, but that's not what I'm taking from that particular scripture. Because like I said, the Proverbs 31st woman, she was an entrepreneur, she was a real estate investor, and et cetera, et cetera. And even if you go back to the, Egyptian history, a lot of the Egyptian women, they worked. So I know it's like American history is a little bit different in terms of like women's suffrage, and they fought for their rights to be more equitable, but I don't understand this correlation between getting education and working being masculine.
Justin, let's talk about it. Oh, I'm sorry, love. Did you want to chime in?
It's okay. Go ahead. I'll go after you.
I just wanted to say really quickly, because I absolutely love when people bring up the Proverbs 31 woman, right? And at the very beginning of the scripture, it also talks about how she rises before the sun and even prepares meals for her help, right? Meaning she had servants, she had maids, she had people that helped her keep her household afloat. It also talks about the status of her husband, that he was of such status that he sat at the gate with the elders in the community, right? Meaning that he provided an area, a surrounding, an environment where his wife could flourish and actually step outside of that home and do those things. Kayla is my air sister from another mister, and I don't know all her business, but what I can bet my last dollar on is that her husband provides enough comfort in that household for her to be able to float back and forth between being a primary household and housemaker, right, and going out and being a corporate hottie, right? It's a yin and yang in that dance. And we consistently talk about how the Proverbs 31 woman was such a boss, and she was doing this and she was doing that. But we forget how much her husband worked and dedicated himself to being of such status that he can provide that type of environment and energy for his family. Now, if you ask me, in the good state of Texas, as good as our economy is, as amazing as our cost of living is, deleting the last 3 years, all y'all Californians coming in, I don't really know if you can provide a sit-in nanny, house care, servants in your home on 41K. I'm not too sure how we can get to that point at 41K, right? Not at this age, I'm not telling y'all my age, but not at the age that I am, right? Including cost of living, healthcare, all of the other good stuff that comes with being an adult. So it's not going after your money. It's, have you tapped into your vision and your purpose enough to assume the responsibility of a wife and children so that we can give our children the absolute best, so they can start from where we finished and not where we started, and we're not repeating generational curses by having our children born into debt, born into poverty, born into struggle, trying to figure out how they're going to afford to carry forward their dreams and their goals and their visions and pay for college and all of this other good stuff. Have we gotten so selfish to say that love and happiness is just enough when we're bringing lives into this world and we can't even afford to give them time, attention, and financial resources at the bare minimum to set them up for success?
That was good. You make a good point, Liz. And Liz, I have a question for you.
in regards to femininity, and anybody in here really who's like really well versed with that, because I hear the whole, she's masculine, he's too feminine, she's this, she's that all the time. And I'm starting to realize, even in my relationship, I really feel like the balance with, at least from a woman's perspective, the balance of my masculine and my feminine, now that I actually can kind of control it for the most part, is actually very beneficial, not just for him, but for me. And I don't know if that's a thing, like in that space. I don't know if there is, in fact, where both the woman and the man have masculine and feminine energy that kind of flows between the both of them. And I'm guessing, this is just my thought process, that when two people come together, there are going to be times where we're on different energies, where I may be a little more masculine, or I may be a little more feminine, or I may be. So it's interesting, like when people say, she got all them degrees, she got all that money, she want to be a masculine, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, even if it were to be considered masculine, which I don't think that is, why is a balance of masculinity and femininity a problem? I think maybe it may be because people don't know how to balance the two. And so maybe, women who are used to being in their masculine, they don't really know how to shut off the masculine and then step into their femininity. So I guess, Les, maybe you can kind of, based off of what I've said, is that how it goes? Is there a healthy balance of femininity and masculinity in women?
I'm not a femininity coach.
Well, you my femininity coach.
Listen, I don't claim to be a lot of these con artists that stream these airways these days. But what I will say, from my understanding and my personal studies of it, is that you cannot be... What happened?
I'm sorry, I was laughing. I'm sorry, guys.
It is. Like when people are like, I'm a femininity coach. Okay, well, what is your teaching based out of? What cultural reference? Is it biblical? Like, where are you coming from with your teaching? Oh, YouTube University. Oh, okay, got it. So anyway.
Or Google University.
Google University, right? Kevin Samuels, the Church of Kevin Samuels taught you. Got it. All right. So anyway, from my understanding of it, no human being is either all masculine or all feminine. It is a yin and yang. So you have both masculine and feminine within you, and you operate out of both because both serve a purpose. Now, this is, take this how y'all will take this next part. I do believe that biology plays a part in what you are equipped to operate out of efficiently. So I believe that women are equipped to move more in their feminine than men are because of how we are biologically made. Right? And, the same thing for men and the vice versa. So you will never hear me down my masculine. You will never hear me downplay it. You will never hear me curse it. You will never hear me say it's not within me. I appreciate and honor the masculine within me, because the masculine within me was my survival. The masculine within me protected me. The masculine within me helped me grow to the heights that I am now, right? My masculine played its part. And when I come into unison with my husband, I plan to operate out a majority of my feminine to rest in his masculinity, because it no longer serves a purpose for me in that moment, because I'm now covered. I now have that spiritual covering, right? So for me, people who downplay it and people who, like to use it as a triggering buzzword, they have a gross misconception of it. They haven't really done the cultural studies of it, the research of it. They more than likely went to Google, watched a couple of YouTube videos, and printed out their own certificate. And I genuinely encourage both women and men to go and read and do the research on your own and develop your own understanding of masculine and feminine outside of the Eurocentric lens, and stop letting people lead you into the slaughterhouse by telling you to operate 100% of your masculine or 100% of your feminine, because it simply doesn't exist and it's not true.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on what y'all said before about the guy who's making the $41,000 a year. This is why y'all shouldn't look at income too much, because the guy that's making $41,000 a year, he doesn't want to top out that. He's probably making that currently, but somewhere in the near future, he could definitely like get that management position and maybe make double that later. Or I'm just saying, just y'all should look at what he's making right now, and just look at his potential before y'all exclude a good dude that's got a good heart that can really y'all could build a future with. I yield with that.
See, that word potential is very triggering to some people. Go ahead, Taylor.
I think, like I said before, you have to be ambitious and enterprising. But I think, at least this is just my experience, something that I've personally gone through. If you can be a good provider to your spouse or your girlfriend or your wife, and she feels comfortable in that provisioning, both economic and emotional, they're going to be good. I was, when I say maybe about 3-4 years ago, my wife and I were thinking about getting a divorce. And, it was not a thing where it was financial for me or our situation, not by any means at all. But there was a situation where, like I said, we lost kind of having some communications. I kind of lost my way a little bit in terms of making sure that I'm keeping things excited and kind of looking at how I can be more attentive and be supportive. So kind of lost my way a little bit. She did as well, but it was not necessarily kind of a numbers thing, right? So this is what I found, that if you can not only provide financially, but also have good emotional support, you got to ride or die for life. I think women don't really, as long as you have a good foundation of being, like I said, enterprising and ambitious, you're going to be able to get the money. But I don't think, at least this is my opinion in terms of how my relationship went, it was really never about having 6 and 7 figures for my wife and I. It was really about making sure that she felt secure. This is Brent. I'm done talking.
Can I chime in, Taylor?
Go ahead.
The person that was just talking, I love what he said at the end. Like, it wasn't about 6 figures for, his wife, and I feel like all women are different. I feel like I feel like the word standards, when I feel like it's kind of just thrown around sometimes, and these financial standards that people have. I'm trying to think back to my grandparents. My grandfather didn't have a whole bunch of money, but I don't think my grandma was with him for money. I don't think she was looking for someone. I don't think her standard was, I'm looking for someone that makes a certain amount of money. They were both entrepreneurs. We know back then it wasn't about a lot of money though. I think now it's more about materialistic things. I think some women have standards. Now I'm not saying it was someone that's broke, because a lot of us are, no, I'm not gonna say a lot of us, some people are living, paycheck to paycheck. A lot of us have been in seasons where we have been struggling, so I really don't, the whole standard thing to me, really, when it comes from, some women, is, I don't want to struggle with you. I just want to reap the benefits of your labor. That's what I get a lot from the word standards, because like I said before, you can have standards all you want to. And, if people truly, believe in God, they know that you're going to go through a season of hard times sometimes. So what happens to those standards? I think someone said it earlier. What happens to those standards when that person that you're with hits a rough season? I think someone said earlier, lose a leg or lose their job, or, something happens and they can no longer provide that standard that was set by that person. But I'm done.
Thank you so much for sharing. Y'all, if y'all not following Shalakemia, make sure you give her a follow. She's new on Clubhouse. She has multiple platforms offside of this app, and she's doing some amazing things and kind of shaking up the the social media platforms that's out there. We have our different narratives that's been put out there. So make sure you give us a follow. And anybody that's in the audience, look, if you're not following the club, make sure you follow the Toxic Relationship Club. We're going to be having more conversations like this. And one thing that I can say, I'm really excited and happy. And the reason why I'm happy is because we've been in rooms with this topic and it's been crazy. It's been embarrassing. People have been put down. But we're having, I feel, a cordial and healthy conversation. People are sharing their perspective. They're sharing their opinions. They're sharing their thoughts, their experiences. And we're listening and we're contributing. So I just want to thank everyone that's on the stage and that's joined in the rooms. We got some moderators too. Make sure you give them a follow. And the people that's in the audience, look, we can't forget about you, right? So thank y'all for coming to the room. I remember when I had just left the military and I got a job at the NSA, National Security Agency in Maryland. I was stoked, right? I was making, because they go by the location of the area. So where Fort Meade area is, the income rate wasn't high, although I was in the DMV area. But I'm not ashamed of saying my journey. I was making $35,000 a year. $35,000. Leaving the military, because military, they pay for your housing and all this stuff. It was so hard for me to climb the ladder in my career from that 35K. And I used to see people come to the NSA in Corvettes and what have you. And a lot of them was contractors, but the government workers was not making a lot of money.
Don't leave anybody, because when he's done, I'm gonna talk some.
Right? But other NSA employees was making just regular government money unless you were climbing up to GS-15, right? And so I remember making that and trying my hardest to do what I have to do, take some courses, and really applying myself to break that. And I decided to leave the government and go contract, right? Use my security clearance, because I was trying to figure out, how do I up my salary? And so that's what I did, right? One thing that I want to say is I met some people from the South, and when I would share with them what I do. At the time I had left the NSA and I've moved on throughout the federal government. Then I worked at the Pentagon, and I would see people, women, faces light up. Not all, just saying the few that I remember light up. And they will share with me that they wish that the men in their area would do more. And I would say to them that the reason why I'm in the position that I'm in is because the opportunity was available for me. I knew when I was living in Orlando, Florida, right, that I knew what the opportunity in Orlando was, and I knew that if I moved further north, I could make some great money, especially if I go towards where the federal government is. They have defense contract. And so I went into the military, and I positioned myself to get out the military in the DMV area, because I knew that that's where a lot of the opportunity was. So I remember reminding some of the women that would share this with me and kind of put the men in those areas in the South down. Almost like, they're not doing enough, and why can't they do better? Well, because they're not around the opportunity. When I lived in Orlando, I didn't know anything about the CIA. I worked at the CIA for 3 years. I don't advertise that, right? But I worked there for 3 whole years. And the only reason why I got that opportunity is because I was in a place
the DMV area that I knew people that worked at Langley, and I applied and I networked and I got in. But maybe if I was still in Orlando, Florida, I would just be looking from the outside in saying, wow, I would love to work at the CIA. I probably would go on Google, I would look up the agency, and I would apply. But it's because I was positioned in a place. So I'm loving this conversation, but sometimes we just don't have that opportunity. We don't have that network space. We don't have that door for us to go up to another level. But you know what? I love women. You know why I love women? Because women are amazing. And why do I say they're amazing? Is because I think they're freaking smart. I think that they see things that me as a man cannot and probably would not see. And they can add so much to my life. And I do feel that I can add so much to their life, right? And so, like I said, I'm loving this conversation. I just wanted to share that. I'm going to go on mute, and I'm opening up the floor popcorn style. Anybody want to come up to the stage, just feel free to raise your hands and I'll pull you up. Popcorn style, y'all.
Yeah, can I chime in?
Absolutely.
Okay. I've been in here for a while, but I keep getting phone calls. But yeah, first of all, I just want to say, like, I can really appreciate this room because, to be honest, this is the most balanced conversation on this topic that I have been in. So I can definitely appreciate that. But I was going to say what I think when we have these conversations, sometimes what I think is missing in what I think a lot of women get frustrated by is the fact that we do have so many men that are complacent, and rather than encouraging them and teaching them how to, like you said, make those connections and to really go after those 6 figures or whatever that is, a lot of them would rather sit in the place that they're at and just tell women to lower their standards, which I agree in many cases, but also it would be nice. And I know that I'm not familiar with all of you, but I know that I've been in Curtis's room before. Oh, he's not here anymore. And I know he does a lot of that, but I would love to see more of that in the Black community, of just successful men taking the younger men under their wing and really encouraging them and pushing them. Because I think if you guys did that, then less women would, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. The problem is now, I guess I won't say crack babies, but I would say these men are growing up now that were raised by trifling mothers that didn't require them to struggle and put them out the house if they didn't go get jobs. Now these young guys is growing up who never had to really struggle. They get everything they want and womanize these women. And I think the good guys got to pay for the bad ones. I yield with that. I just want to throw that out there.
Hey, can I chime in for a second, guys?
Go ahead, Robert.
I think a lot of women really don't understand that it takes not a good guy, it takes an exceptional guy to get to these figures that he's talking about over here. Not a good guy, an exceptional guy. Like the guy I was talking about the military. I spent 20 years in the military myself, and I have my own business, whatever. And not only had a college degree also, but I went through hell to get to the level that I am at right now. You know what I'm saying? Everybody walking on the street is not going to get to these levels to a certain degree. You're going to get a man that's going to be making 40, you making 20, or making whatever. But as a black man in the United States, you have to be exceptional to get to certain levels, whatever. You know what I'm saying? We don't get the opportunity to just walk through the door because we're beautiful and all that kind of stuff. And we don't get to just glance on in whatever, you know what I'm saying? It takes hard work and sacrifice, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So once you see a brother out there that's doing the damn thing, he is not the norm. He is the exception. He might have made it out of the rough ghetto, whatever. He might have made it through a single family parent, whatever, he might have made it through exceptional situations to get to where he is at that time, whatever. So I hear what the lady's talking about. Well, more men need to do this, more men. You're absolutely right, whatever. But and a lot of you ladies don't appreciate the men that are at that level to a certain degree. The guy that went through hell, literally hell, to get to where they're at today, whatever. Because one false move, and it all could have came back crashing down around them to a certain degree. You know what I'm saying? So when you guys are, walking the halls of the CIA and NSA and the military and different places like that, you're not seeing the normal everyday dude. You're seeing the exception to the rule. You're seeing you're actually seeing Superman in a lot of different ways, whatever, because he survived a whole hell of a lot. Me personally, I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? I grew up through a rough neighborhood, whatever. I was forced to go into the military as a young guy, you know what I'm saying? I had to blunder in a scholarship, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I got my degree while I was in the military. I started my business not too long ago, whatever. I was working for the government. I was a government contractor for a while also. You know what I'm saying? I survived hell. Okay, so these guys you've seen around here with these, college degrees and got the businesses or working for the government, whatever, they're the exception. They're actually Supermen. You know what I'm saying? I know that everybody can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So y'all need to, appreciate these guys or whatever, because I'm gonna tell you right now, it takes a lot to get in these positions. You know what I'm saying? It takes more than you'll ever know. And I'll rest my case with that.
Can I piggyback off of what he said really quick? I think so what he said is very true, but us as women, we know that. And that's why I have the stance that I have. And I feel like that's why I have the understanding and the compassion, and I listen, because I know how, life was rough for me, So why would I sit up here and expect something out of a man, not expect something out of a man like that, but expect him to just go 0 to 100. And I know that is not even realistic, because we as women are trying to elevate. But what do? We went to school, we worked, and we went to school at night, and it was a struggle. So you would think that a real woman would recognize that it's not easy to get to those heights. And we're all human, though. That's what's crazy to me. We are all human. So why aren't we understanding? Why aren't we compassionate? And when I was sitting up here listening to people, I feel like God put in my spirit, what if he's waiting for the right two to meet and then elevate together? But how will some people even experience that or know that when their standards are so crazy high? And they're just focused on the standards and not really focused on God. I think a lot of people operate in the flesh and not in the spirit. And I'm not saying be with somebody broke. But what I'm saying is just think about the levels that you had to, reach in life, and how it wasn't easy, how it was difficult. I'm just saying be open-minded to that.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to piggyback off of Robert. I'm also from Brownsville, Brooklyn as well, and I work in STEM. And being a minority within the corporate space, it is extremely tough to reach those particular positions. And I think that there's a lack of empathy when it comes down to the hardworking Black men within this country, because of social media, a lot of people exacerbates the relationship mating between Black men and Black women. They spend time on Shade Room, etc., and they want to live that particular lifestyle. But if you look at the actual numbers, only 10% of men of all races make 100,000 or more. And I personally feel that, especially Black men, they need to acquire a passport to travel, to understand the world around them. Because when you're confined in a small community, you really don't see the value that you have, especially as a Black man in America. So I advise black men who may not make 100K, who may make 50K or etc. Acquire your passport and travel the world and understand that you are valuable, because what I hear a lot on social media, a lot of people like to point the fingers at black men and say, oh, you're not doing this and that, but they don't understand the level of hard work it takes to become a quote-unquote high-value man. And you will really understand your value when you spread your wings, acquire a passport, and travel the world. Start to talk to people from other communities as well. And that will help you with I'll say, to build the confidence and the ambition to become the best version of you. I'll stay muted.
My young brother from Brownfield, Brooklyn, congratulations for making it out of the struggle, my man. And I would like to add, I know I'm already skipping over somebody that, and look, guys, I used to hang around about 25 guys when I was younger. I went through the high school and everything like that. Out of those 25 guys, 3 of us made it out of Brooklyn. The rest were either dead or incarcerated. One guy who's a retired lieutenant colonel in the military. One guy is a business owner, and another guy was a Marine, and he stayed in 35 years, and he's out in California, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna tell you right now, a lot of these guys that made it out of these struggles, man. Let me tell you something. You know what I'm saying? They ain't nothing to play with, whatever. These are the type of guys, whatever, that you want on your side, ladies, whatever. And not only that, these are the type of guys that ain't gonna be play second fiddle to anything, whatever. You got to get on his program. You know what I'm saying? If not, then they're not even gonna even look at your way to a certain degree, whatever. So, but because these guys got everything to lose in a lot of different ways. You're saying, well, it's just a relationship, it's just a marriage, it's just a situation, whatever. But a man that has gotten so much from hard work and sacrifice is not going to put somebody on his team that's not qualified to be on his team, and doesn't know how important it is or know how hard it is to be a member of his team. And I'll close that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think ambition can be taught. I think you have to have it. You have to have, enterprising mindset. But I definitely want to piggyback on the type of folks who are.
B-Man, I'm here. I'm here. I'm actually doing a show, so that's why I went live. I'm about to wrap up though, because I gotta go. So after this person, I'm gonna come and talk to y'all, because I don't want to hold y'all up any longer.
Yeah, and what Robert said, you have to get on the program, right? And a lot of times it can be a situation where it can fray a lot of relationships. At least what happened with me, but I was able to kind of internalize a lot of things. Again, like I said before, it's a lot of work. Relationships take a lot of work. So I was able to kind of work on healing myself and understanding where some of those, some of that mindset came from. But, being super ambitious, people that are super ambitious and are super enterprising, tend to focus more in the logic as opposed to kind of having, the areas where emotions can be ignored as well. So I think it's a double-edged sword sometimes in some relationships. I'm just kind of talking about myself. I'm not talking about anyone else. This is kind of how I came up, and it was difficult at times. Sometimes you miss a lot of things because you're working so hard all the time to do or get to a certain status level that it can cause issues in a relationship that are obviously not financial. This is Brent. I'm done talking.
Taylor, I have to go, but I just wanted to really thank everybody for this positive environment. It's the most I think the calmest, most fruitful room that crowd I've been in. But I just want to thank everybody for having me and the perspectives. I've definitely um, taken some things from everyone, even though I have my own stance on things I've learned from, I think her name is Les and Chandra and Kayla. Um, and it's another guy. He was in here earlier. But I've learned something from everybody, even you, Taylor. But I want to thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. And I want to thank everybody else for coming also. Like I said, this topic has been in a lot of rooms. People have taken over the stage. People have yelled, all kinds of stuff, blocked people. And I just want to thank everyone for just being a human. And I have to say that because this is a very touchy, emotional, and people get angry and whatever. And I just want to appreciate everyone for coming. This is the first time since December that I've opened this room. And so I appreciate each and every one. And also I appreciate you for taking the time and doing this and sharing your perspective. I know you're a busy person. And I appreciate you, and you're more than welcome to come back at any time. And like I said, we're going to be doing some more conversations like this. Yeah, I hope everybody have a good evening. Anybody have any last words? We're taking last words, and then we're going to shut this down because it's been a great conversation.
I'll just say one last thing. I really want Black men to acquire their power.
Okay, everybody. So I left out of the room. First and foremost, I want to thank y'all for spending y'all evening with me tonight. That I think that conversation is a conversation we continue to have. One thing from me, I want people to be in healthy and prosperous relationships with people, marriages. That's what I want for people. I don't want people to be in a situation where they don't feel secure or they don't feel complete or appreciated or valued. Or I never want people to feel like someone's with them for what they have and not who they are. And I try to continue to stress that. And that's man or woman for me, you know. And I stand on that. You know, I don't believe for myself that to be with a man that he has to make a certain amount of money. I've dated men that worked at fast food places. I dated men that had part-time cleaning jobs. That didn't make him less of a man to me. I was in love with the man himself, and you know, the goals and the dreams and the ambition. I'm the type of woman that I understood that that's not where he was always going to be in life. I feel like, you know, it takes a real woman, you know, to see the greatness in a man. And it takes a real man to see the greatness in a woman. And when you get with your person, that person will activate some or maybe all of that greatness that is down inside of you. And when I say activate that, I mean that this person will come and speak to your greatness, a greatness that you may not even know that you may have. And that's the beautiful thing about being with someone for who they are. I love y'all, and thank y'all so much for tuning in with me tonight. For now on, anytime I do a podcast or anything like that that's not on my platform, I will come and I will do it like this, so y'all are always in the mix of everything. Hey Curtis. I want to thank the people that have sold into my platform as well. I also have a new audiobook coming out. It'll be a little longer. It'll be more powerful. I'm asking people, if you support me and you love me, to please support it. All the funds are going to go towards me building my own talk show, up. So again, I just want to thank y'all for, tuning in with me tonight. Thank you for continuously supporting me. I want the best for every single one of y'all. I want y'all to be happy. I want y'all to be prosperous, not just in relationships and marriage. I want y'all to be prosperous in life. And last but not least, I want you to know that you are amazing. And I want you to also, if no one told you today, that also you matter. I love y'all so much and have a good night.